Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Unlimited rewards in Marvel, and my girlfriend is Wonder Woman. Chapter 41. Learn to photograph. Peter looked at the SLR camera and the large and small lenses on the table, and his immature face was full of doubts. He has been working as an intern in the firm for several days. But these few days, Russell has not arranged any serious work for him. Either let him do homework in the office, or let him clean the office. The only serious job is to ask him to sort out the letter of entrustment he sent. But according to his observation, Russell, who is a private detective in name, has no interest in the letter of entrustment sent. "Sir, can I ask, why do you want me to learn photography?" Peter asked suspiciously. Photography is a very important skill, especially for boys. Imagine how heart-wrenching it is when you go out to travel with your girlfriend, if you don't know how to take pictures and can't take good-looking pictures for your girlfriend. A man who can take pictures is not only more attractive, but also more emotional. You are still young, there are some things you don't understand yet, and you will understand when you grow up. Russell said with a serious face. Although what he said was serious, Peter always felt that he was deliberately hiding something. "Okay, sir." Peter frowned and said quickly. When Peter fiddled with the camera on the table, Russell picked up the gamepad again and started his own journey of customs clearance. Asking Peter to learn photography was purely an idea on his whim. In some universes, Peter not only likes photography, but also becomes a newspaper photographer. Peter in this world, perhaps because of his family background, did not develop a hobby of photography. But it doesn't matter, with him around, Peter will never face the situation of 3 generations of poor photography, and a single lens reflex camera ruins his life. Peter was fiddling with cameras and lenses, while Russell was playing console games. Neither of them said a word, and went about their work without saying a word. Just when Peter thought that today would be another day without serious business, the door of the office was suddenly pushed open. A tall, simple-looking man in a black suit walked in. After entering the office, the man quickly glanced at Russell and Peter. Then, he looked at the environment of the office with a serious look, as if to confirm whether the office was safe. Just as the man looked at the office environment like a bodyguard, a voice sounded from behind the man. "Happy, get out of the way, you're blocking me." This is Tony Stark's voice. I saw that Happy quickly stepped aside and let Tony, who was wearing sunglasses and an expensive hand-tailored suit, walk into the office. After entering the office, Tony first glanced at Russell, and then said to Happy, "Happy, take this kid out." "Okay, sir." Without any hesitation, Happy came to Peter quickly and took Peter out of the office with a puzzled face. When going out, Happy didn't forget to close the door of the office. "Sorry, it took a few days to deal with things over there in Los Angeles. It's late." Tony took off his sunglasses and said slowly to Russell, "You're not too late. Sit down and talk." Russell put down the gamepad and pointed at Tony to the chair in front of the desk. "I'd better stand and talk." Tony looked at the chair in front of him and said again, "Up to you." Tony put the sunglasses into his chest pocket casually, and said slowly, "I'm here this time, besides giving you the reward you want, there is one more thing." "What's up?" Russell glanced at Stark's slightly shining chest and asked directly. "Small arc reactor." He still managed to get it out. "I want to invite you to be the security director of Stark Industries," Tony said very seriously. Russell did not answer Tony immediately, because at this time, he received a message from the system. Reward: Endosymbiotic Battle Armor. Status: Activated. Activation conditions: Prevent Tony Stark from becoming Iron Man due to the kidnapping incident. Activation effect: After activation, get endosymbiotic battle armor. Taking a look at the information sent by the system, he turned off the system information and said to Tony, "The security director of Stark Industries is not an ordinary position. You trust me so much. Including this time, we only met for the second time." Tony seemed to have guessed early on that he would say this, and said quickly, "Do you know what the first thing I will do when I go back to Los Angeles?" "What's up?" "I checked your details, Mr. Crazy Traveler." Russell was not surprised that Tony would check his own details. When he told Tony his name, he was ready to be investigated by Tony. However, he did not expect that when Tony returned to Los Angeles, he did not immediately deal with Obadiah, but went to check his details. Since you know that I am a crazy traveler, then you should know that I am not a good person. It's not a wise decision to invite me to be the security director of Stark Industries. Russell looked at Tony and said with a smile, "Of course you are not a good person, but you are a very reliable person. You chose to save me instead of killing me in Afghanistan. Then I think I should have something here that you want. Join Stark Industries, I can give you anything you want," Tony said confidently. Looking at Tony with a confident face, Russell shook his head helplessly. He dared to say such a thing without even knowing what he wanted, as expected of Tony Stark. "You can't give me what I want. As for the security director you mentioned, your bodyguard, Happy, would be more suitable than me." Russell decisively declined Tony's invitation. Although he doesn't hate Tony, but let him go to work under Tony, don't even think about it. Isn't it bad to be your own boss? Why don't you want to go to someone else to be a migrant worker? It doesn't matter if you don't want to, it's okay. Tony didn't take Russell's refusal to heart. "By the way, I've been working on some new gadgets recently. If you have time, I hope you can come and see for yourself after a while," Tony continued. I don't know why, when Tony said these words, Russell saw something called the desire to win or lose in him. Isn't this guy planning to fight me in a steel suit? Los Angeles is too far away, and I don't have any idea of going to Los Angeles in a short time. Russell said slowly, "You don't have to go to Los Angeles. I forgot to tell you that I will live in New York for a while. If you want to see me, you can come to Stark Tower to find me at any time." After speaking, Tony took out an envelope from his jacket pocket and put it on the table. "This is the reward you want." After putting down the envelope, Tony turned around and left the office. Russell picked up the envelope, opened it and glanced at it. Inside the envelope was a cashier's check from a Swiss bank. Amount, $600 million US. For ordinary people, this is an astonishing figure, a huge amount of wealth that one may not even dream of. But for Tony, things that can be solved with money are not things. $600 million US can buy back his own life. This transaction is very cost-effective. Russell put the cashier's check back into the envelope, opened the drawer, and threw the envelope in. This $600 million US is also a lot of wealth for him. But not to the point of shocking him. As soon as he put the envelope in the drawer, Peter, who was taken out by the belt, returned to the office with curiosity on his immature face. "Sir, was that Tony Stark just now?" Peter asked in disbelief. "Yes, what's wrong? Is he here to entrust?" Peter asked hastily. "No, he came to pay." While answering Peter, Russell took out his wallet and took out all the cash in it. "You've been working in the firm for several days, and this is your salary this week." He gestured towards Peter, let Peter come to him, and handed him all the cash in his hand. In the United States, the weekly wage system prevails. Although Peter has been at work for less than a week now, Russell doesn't mind paying him this week's salary in advance. "Sir, no, I can't have it." Looking at the cash handed by Russell, Peter shook his head and said. The cash handed by Russell is not small. At first glance, it is thousands of dollars. This is undoubtedly a huge sum of money for Peter, who usually has little pocket money. "Take it, you deserve it. Don't you like Lego? The Death Star and the Millennium Falcon are both out, go buy one. By the way, I'll buy myself a new mobile phone to facilitate contact. As for the extra ones, you can give them to your aunt. You don't want her to work so hard, do you?" Russell ignored Peter's refusal and put the money into his hands. Although Peter is very smart, he is still too young now and has no social experience at all. Especially after hearing that his aunt would not have to work so hard, he was very sensible since he was a child and finally took the cash handed by Russell. "Thank you, sir." After receiving the cash, Peter said to Russell solemnly. "You're welcome, I said it, you deserve it. Okay, there is nothing to do today, you go back first." Little Peter nodded, put away the SLR camera and lens on the table, and left the office with a backpack on his back. Standing by the window and watching Peter board the bus, Russell turned on the system. Reward: Endosymbiotic Battle Armor. Do you want to receive it immediately? This is the fourth reward he got, and the first equipment type reward. The first three rewards were sent immediately after he met the activation conditions, without asking him whether to receive them at all. Without even thinking about it, he directly chose to receive it immediately. As soon as he made a choice, the system information that appeared in front of him disappeared. The next second, a silver-white drum with a diameter of more than 1 meter appeared in front of him out of thin air. It may be a bit inaccurate to describe it as a barrel. To be precise, this is a high-tech container of fully intelligent liquid metal filled with endosymbiotic battle armor that has not yet been transformed. Looking at the barrel-like container in front of him, Russell frowned slightly. The previous rewards, whether it was Wonder Woman's blessing or the Venom symbiote, were directly transforming and strengthening his body, and there was no need to consider the storage issue. However, the reward of endosymbiotic battle armor is somewhat different. This is not some extraordinary ability, but a real high-tech steel battle suit. Although the endosymbiotic battle armor made of fully intelligent liquid metal is very convenient to wear, it is not suitable for 24-hour wear no matter how convenient it is. More importantly, how to store the armor is also a problem. Just when he was considering whether to send the endosymbiotic battle armor and container to his secret safe house, the system sent a message again. Equipment type rewards are detected, and the system's different space is opened. Forehead. Is the system so considerate now? Looking at the information sent by the system, Russell was stunned for a moment. Compared with other fellow travelers, his system is obviously a very cold guy, and he will never appear when there is nothing to do. But now, the high cold system shows a caring side. It didn't take much time for him to figure out what the different dimension of the system was about. To put it simply, this is a storage space that comes with the system. In addition to storing various equipment rewarded by the system, it can also be used to store other items. The only downside is that it cannot store living things. After learning about the system space, Russell once again set his sights on the silver-white container in front of him. I saw him raise his right hand, and when his mind moved, the fully intelligent liquid metal in the container flew towards him. In the blink of an eye, his right arm was covered by the armor. Looking at the right arm that was already covered by the armor, Russell showed a satisfied smile. As expected of the brand new armor created by the evil Tony through his research on the symbiote, it is indeed very different. He felt the armor on his right arm. Without any hesitation, he activated the weak telepathy attached to it again, and let the liquid metal in the container fly towards him. The silver-white fully intelligent liquid metal flew to him like tentacles of various sizes, and deformed according to the set program. In just 2 or 3 seconds, he was wearing the endosymbiotic battle armor. The pulse cannon in the palm and the cluster cannon in the chest. The endosymbiotic warframe currently has only these 2 conventional weapon systems. But the potential of the armor made of liquid metal is obviously more than that. As long as there are suitable engineers, even if it is not the Mark 50 and Mark 85 made by nanotechnology, the endosymbiotic battle armor also has considerable deformation ability. Although the evil Tony in the comics did not change the armor into too many weapons, it does not mean that he will use the endosymbiotic armor completely according to the method of the evil Tony. Although the endosymbiotic armor can be activated and controlled through telepathy, the armor is still equipped with an artificial intelligence system. Not Jarvis, not Friday. Evil Tony didn't name the Warframe's AI system. After thinking about it, Russell named the artificial intelligence of the battle armor No. 3. It's not a fancy name, just a simple number 3. As for why such a simple name was given, the reason is very simple, because the endosymbiotic armor reminded him of the Extremis virus 3.0. After getting used to the endosymbiotic battle armor, Russell turned the helmet with a transparent face and no hair covering into a normal form. He's not that narcissistic guy like evil Tony. To show his face in public is not in line with his usual, low-key, style. After transforming the helmet into a fully covered standard shape, Russell went to the window and pushed it open. Looking at the various data on the internal display of the helmet, he did not hesitate, and directly turned on the flight system of the armor. It was the first time I wore a battle armor, and I couldn't justify it without actually flying. Tony dared to wear the Mark II, which was not completely perfect, for the test flight. Of course, he didn't have to worry about safety issues when he was wearing the endosymbiotic armor. His feet spurted orange-red tail flames, and Russell, wearing a battle armor, flew out of the office like a cannonball. Fly, a dream that human beings have had since ancient times. Although there are all kinds of airplanes in the world, flying in an airplane and flying in armor are two completely different feelings. When he flew in the endosymbiotic armor, Russell finally knew why Tony was happy like a child when he first flew in the Mark II. The speed is 700 miles, the mood is free. Cool. Russell is in no worse mood now than Tony, who was flying in the Mark II for the first time. Although he was flying over New York wearing battle armor during the day, it was a little high profile. But now, Russell completely ignores this. High profile. Even if it is photographed, or attracts the attention of some organizations, it doesn't matter. Not to mention that he has Diana's long, straight and top-notch thighs. Even if Diana is not used, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra would have to seriously consider whether it is worth attacking him. Tony is already making battle armor. Compared with him, Tony seems to be a better bully. Although I don't know if he will skip Mark I and make Mark II, it doesn't matter. With Tony's character, when he builds a battle armor, he will only be more high profile. Maybe there will be a capitalist debauched party in battle armor or something. Wearing a battle armor and flying in the steel jungle of New York, it flew past the high-rise buildings like a dazzle. Russell experienced speed and passion like never before. The speed and passion brought by extreme flying is much more exciting than driving a car. Russell, enjoying the thrill of flying, couldn't help but think of a sentence. Only when you fly in the air can you truly feel that the world is three-dimensional, not just front, back, left and right. This kind of feeling can never be experienced by driving and sailing. After experiencing the pleasure of flying with satisfaction, he returned to the office and released the endosymbiotic battle armor on his body happily. The endosymbiotic battle armor first turned into tentacles and left his body, then reconvened into a battle armor and stood in front of him. Looking at the armor in front of him and the container with a large bucket of all-intelligent liquid metal next to it, he opened the system space and put both the armor and the container in. After doing all this, he sat down and recalled the pleasure of flying just now. Reward: Endosymbiotic Battle Armor. Activation effect: after activation, get endosymbiotic battle armor. This is the reward information given by the system. But it is clear that the system does not fully explain the effects of activation. He did get an endosymbiotic battle armor, but he did not get a set of endosymbiotic battle armor. Rather than rewarding him with the endosymbiotic battle armor, the system rewarded him with the fully intelligent liquid metal that built the endosymbiotic battle armor. That bucket of fully intelligent liquid metal is proof. Although he put on the battle armor just now, the battle armor has not used up all the liquid metal in the container, not even 1/10. From this point of view, he should also be able to turn the endosymbiotic armor into a giant armor like the anti-Hulk armor by absorbing more fully intelligent liquid metal like the evil Tony in the comics. In addition, in order to ensure that he can use the endosymbiotic battle armor normally, the system also gave him an additional small reward. Telepathy. The endosymbiotic battle armor is the only one among the many battle armors built by Tony that can be activated and controlled through telepathy. Although the telepathy rewarded by the system can only be used to activate and control the endosymbiotic battle armor, it is not a bad thing to have too many skills. If you are lucky enough, maybe at some point, this can only be used to activate and control the telepathy of the endosymbiotic armor, and it will become a real telepathy superpower. The huge sum of $600 million is far more than the endosymbiotic battle armor of today's technology. Russell is now increasingly recognizing Obadiah's assessment of Tony. Tony really is a chicken that can lay golden eggs. Speaking of which, he doesn't even know what will happen to Obadiah now. Because of him, Obadiah avoided the fate of dying in a large arc reactor wearing Iron Overlord. Thinking of this, he turned on the computer and searched for Obadiah's information on the internet. Plane crash. Forehead. Looking at the obituary on Stark Industries' official website, Russell didn't know what to say for a while. According to the description in the obituary, Obadiah, who was on vacation, was in an accident on a small plane and was buried in the sea with no bones left. Russell did not doubt that Obadiah was dead. But he didn't quite believe the claim that the plane crashed. Is there really such a coincidence? Obadiah was definitely not killed by Tony. According to Tony's character, he at most handed Obadiah to the law for settlement. If it wasn't for Tony's arrangement, then Obadiah's death would be suspicious. Out of the killer's instinct and experience, he felt that Obadiah was more like being silenced. Then the problem comes again. If Obadiah was really silenced, who was the mastermind behind it? For some reason, Russell's name appeared in his mind. The name of Marvel's stick is not for nothing. In the Marvel world, if there is any conspiracy and the mastermind behind it cannot be found, then there is no doubt that this is basically what Hydra did. Hydra's combat effectiveness is not very strong, but its ability to do things is definitely among the best. Russell didn't waste time thinking about whether Obadiah was silenced by Hydra. Glancing at the time, he decisively turned off the machine, picked up the envelope in the drawer, and left the office without looking back. Before the bank closed, he went to exchange the promissory note. A promissory note is an unreported and anonymous thing. No matter who gets the promissory note, it will be redeemed at sight. He didn't want some capsize in the gutter. After processing the promissory note, he drove the Porsche back to the apartment and was looking forward to the event tonight. Before he left for Afghanistan, he ordered some hot lingerie from Maxim magazine. The express delivery speed in the United States is far from being comparable to that of flower growers. It wasn't until this morning that the courier finally delivered to the apartment. It's actually pretty good to be able to receive the courier today. Online shopping in the United States is like engaging in online dating, and you can't see a real person after a lot of calls. There is a very interesting stock on the internet about how slow the express delivery in the United States is. An ordinary tortoise travels at a speed of 270 meters per hour. It takes 87 hours to climb from the postal center to the cargo distribution center of San Francisco Airport, while the same distance, the American Postal Service takes 179 hours. Even if the delivery is slow, the service attitude is also very confusing. I won't say anything about violent delivery. What's even more amazing is the elusiveness of the courier brother. Or, the knock on the door is so small that you can't hear it at all, and then disappears again with your courier. Or, the doorbell or the knock on the door just rang, the courier was at the door, and the courier brother was gone. If he hadn't had a keen sense of hearing, had sensed the inaudible knock on the door, and appeared at the door at a speed far beyond ordinary people, he would have estimated that he might have to board for another week before he could sign for the courier. Imagining the alluring images of Diana in those underwear, he thought he might consider a long-term subscription to Motto. Night, Sky Apartments, bedroom. When did you fall in love with this tune? I've always liked it, but in the past, women were strong and men were weak, so I put up with it. Then you don't have to buy so much at one time, right? A lot. Queen, Maid, JK, Dead Reservoir Water. Which one are you going to wear first? Although Diana is usually the queen of the royal family, she still shows Russell face when they get along in private. Not to mention, when Russell wants to play a game, she basically won't refuse. Of course, those who go too far will definitely not work. No matter how gentle the royal sister, that is also the royal sister. Overall, Russell's night was not an ordinary happy one. It was quite a pleasure. The body and mind have enjoyed the indescribable extreme pleasure. The only bad thing was that when he woke up the next day, his waist was a little sore. It still doesn't work, even with an extraordinary physique. In front of Diana, who has the body of a demigod and the blessings of the gods, his physique is still a bit unsightly. To make things even more troubling, Diana still doesn't allow him to use the power of the Venom symbiote while playing the game. Only relying on his extraordinary physique and adrenaline to control himself, he is not yet an opponent of Diana, who is full of firepower. But even so, he and Diana had an unforgettable night. The next day, dining room. Russell and Diana sat face to face, eating breakfast that Diana cooked by herself. A ruin has been excavated over the Dead Sea. They want me to go and have a look. I'm going on a business trip for a while, Diana said while eating breakfast. How long will you be going? A week or two if it's fast, maybe a month or so if it's slow. With the knife and fork in his hand, Russell looked up at Diana, who was only wearing a white shirt. No wonder she acted so crazy last night, it turned out to be a business trip. Do you need me to accompany you there? I haven't had any commissions recently. No, just stay at home obediently. Diana showed a gentle smile like the rising sun and said with a smile. Then, in the next second, Diana, with a gentle face and a gentle and virtuous temperament, said again, "Do you know what to do when I'm not at home?" "Understood. Completely understand. Must understand." Without any hesitation, Russell answered confidently. "Just understand. Remember to change the bed in the bedroom, and by the way, change the curtains as well." Although Diana has a typical heroine personality, she still had a seductive crimson on her face when she said this. Looking at her current appearance, you can tell that she recalled her excessive actions last night. If it were another person, he would really not be able to withstand her devastation. Only Russell could compete with her evenly for a period of time. After breakfast, Diana went back to the bedroom to pack up. After everything was ready, Russell drove her to the museum. After watching Diana, who is tall and well-mannered, enter the museum, he drove to the office. Although Diana's business trip was not in his plan, it did not affect what he was going to do next. Although he is indeed hugging Diana's thighs now, even without Diana, he is still a famous traveler. Octopus Monster Office. As soon as he returned to the office, he saw an uninvited guest sitting on the sofa of the office. "Mr. Bakshi, although we have met, but you came uninvited and entered my office without permission, is it a bit unreasonable?" No one else was sitting on the sofa. It was Bakshi, who attracted him on behalf of Hydra last time, but was reluctant to reveal the name of Hydra. Just like last time, Bakshi wore a well-dressed suit, the style of a successful entrepreneur. "Mr. Bradley, this is indeed what I did wrong. I hope you can forgive me." Bakshi stood up and apologized sincerely. "Okay, let's not talk nonsense. Tell me, what's the matter with you coming here this time?" Russell came to sit across from the sofa and said to Bakshi. "It's the same as last time. Our organization appreciates talents like you and would like to invite you to join our organization." Bakshi sat down again and said with a smile, "I said last time, I don't like that kind of hiding life. Your organization is so mysterious that you can't even name it. I'm not interested in joining such an organization." Although Bakshi didn't say it, Russell could already guess why this guy came to him. Endosymbiotic battle armor. He just flew a few laps around the city in his battle armor yesterday, and Bakshi didn't invite him today. You can know what Hydra is thinking with your toes. No, you misunderstood. Although our organization is mysterious, it is by no means what you imagined. Bakshi still maintained a smile, and while speaking, took out a card from his jacket pocket. "The last time we met, I planned to tell you the name of the organization, Mr. Bradley, but you left first, which caused you to have such a misunderstanding." After speaking, Bakshi handed the card in his hand to Russell. At the same time, he said seriously, "We are Hydra." I don't know if it was his own illusion. When Bakshi said the name of Hydra, Russell saw a fleeting look of fanaticism on his face. Forehead. Is this a brain-damaged fan? Russell took the card handed by Bakshi and glanced casually. There is no text on the white card but a black logo. A logo that combines a skull and octopus tentacles. The Hydra that cut off one head and grew two heads instead. Russell said calmly, "That's right, it's the Hydra you mentioned." Bakshi's expression became a little proud, and he didn't know what he was proud of. "I've heard the name of Hydra. It is rumored that you and Schmidt have been wiped out. It seems that you are living pretty well now." Although he knew that Hydra was now hiding in S.H.I.E.L.D., when it was time to pretend not to know, he would still pretend. Killers don't just need to shoot. Acting is also one of the essential skills of a killer. Especially for female killers, such as Perkins, their acting skills are not much worse than the old Hollywood actors. Schmidt is just one of us, not all of us. Our strength is far stronger than the rumors from the outside world, and S.H.I.E.L.D. only cut off one of our heads. If you're willing to join us, I can assure you that you can get everything you want. Wealth, power, beauty. As long as you want, we can satisfy you. Bakshi began to tempt Russell to join. In order to successfully lure Russell to join, he did a lot of homework, and even asked Hydra's team of psychological experts to make a detailed report on Russell. Just when Bakshi planned to draw Russell to join him according to the report of the psychologist, he heard Russell's answer. "Join Hydra, yes, I agree." Agreed. Bakshi looked at Russell in disbelief, wondering if he had heard it wrong. It's not right. Doesn't it mean that Russell is greedy for money and lustful, and he will pay for his greed? What are those psychologists doing, and all the reports they submit? Bakshi recalled the psychological analysis report he carefully read last night, and cursed a few words in his heart. What's the matter? Looking at you, Mr. Bakshi, you don't seem to welcome me. Russell looked at Bakshi, who was obviously unresponsive, and said slowly. Hydra is indeed not a good organization. But it cannot be denied that Hydra is a powerful and long-standing organization. It's a bit of a pity that such an organization was wiped out by S.H.I.E.L.D. From another point of view, Hydra just took a slightly wrong path. They need a good master to bring them back to the right way. Russell felt that he was very suitable to be the owner of Hydra. Let the prodigal son of the Hydra turn back and reform his face, it is my duty. No, I'm just a little too excited. I didn't expect you, Mr. Bradley, to be so willing to join us. Bakshi calmed down some of his excitement and said slowly. Everyone will be their own from now on, don't be so unfamiliar, just call me Russell. Russell said lightly. Okay, then I'll just call you Russell, you can also be called Sunil. Bakshi replied immediately. Okay, since that's the case, then I won't be polite to you, Sunil. You came here today, shouldn't you just invite me to join the organization? Russell asked directly. Sure enough, I can't hide it from you. That's right, I came here today, and it's not just to invite you to join the organization. Did you fly around the city in a set of high-tech battle armor yesterday? The organization is very interested in the armor you were wearing. I wonder if you are willing to let the organization study it. Don't worry, the organization will never take advantage of you. If you want, the organization will provide you with satisfactory returns. Bakshi didn't hide it, and asked very directly. Sure enough. As he guessed, the Hydra came for the endosymbiotic battle armor. When Bakshi finished speaking, Russell deliberately put on a difficult expression, frowned and said, Yes, it was indeed me who flew around the city wearing the armor yesterday, but that armor is not mine, belonged to someone else. Other people's? Bakshi asked suspiciously. That's right. You should also know that I am a killer. How could I possibly understand high-tech things? That suit of armor was actually given to me by my girlfriend. She was afraid of me getting hurt, so she gave me the armor so that I wouldn't get hurt so easily. Russell said sincerely, not at all worried that Bakshi could see any flaws. Hydra knows who he is, and naturally knows that he does not have the ability to develop high-tech armor. Let him kill, he is very good at it. Let him study high-tech battle armor, and know that it is impossible without thinking. In fact, Hydra also doesn't think that the armor was researched by Russell himself. They did not doubt that the armor was made by Diana. It's just that Diana doesn't look like someone who can study this kind of high-tech equipment. Diana is indeed very strong, and Hydra knows this very well. Otherwise, they wouldn't try to win over Diana sideways by whining over Russell. However, what Diana left a deep impression on them was her unstoppable appearance with a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. The high-tech armor, no matter how you look at it, doesn't match Diana's style. But they didn't dare to completely rule out this possibility. A powerful being with extraordinary abilities does not mean that he will not use high-tech equipment. The two are not incompatible. In just a few seconds, several thoughts flashed through Bakshi's mind. It turned out to be a gift from Miss Prince, so I wonder if Miss Prince would mind us to study the armor. Bakshi put it in a more euphemistic way. It is absolutely impossible to give up. You don't need to think about how valuable a set of high-tech battle suits with flight capabilities is. Even if it is not used for battle, the various technologies used on the armor alone have huge scientific research value and economic value. Although only some scattered pictures and some data obtained from flight trajectories have been photographed, Hydra has already developed an extremely strong interest in endosymbiotic battle armor. On the surface, the technology-based S.H.I.E.L.D. is very interested in extraordinary abilities. On the surface, Hydra, who is very interested in extraordinary abilities, loves all kinds of high technology. I don't dare to ask her about this, Sunil, you should also be very aware of the creature like a woman. If you let her know that I gave you the gift she gave me, not only will I be in great trouble, but you will also be in great trouble. Russell shook his head helplessly. I understand, I just asked casually. Bakshi said with a smile. How powerful Diana is, Hydra knows very well. But it cannot be denied that Diana was a woman. And a woman is sometimes a very terrifying creature. especially if you offend them. There is a saying that is quite right: women are more dangerous beings than terrorists. Terrorists can negotiate terms, but women can't. Terrorists will tell you exactly what they want, women won't. Terrorists are one code at a time, and they are different from each other. Women are different, and the past, the present, and the future that has not happened may cause their dissatisfaction. When negotiating with terrorists, the ransom may be less and less. Negotiating with women may cost more and more. More importantly, you never know why a woman is angry. Although Hydra really wanted Russell's endosymbiotic battle armor, if the condition for obtaining the battle armor was to completely anger Diana, they would not hesitate, and would definitely choose to give up the battle armor as soon as possible. I'll talk about the battle armor next time. Now I want to know what kind of benefits and help the organization will provide for new members like me. Russell directly changed the subject. He will definitely not hand in the battle armor. Even if he thoroughly studies the battle armor, he will not hand it in. However, using the power of Hydra to strengthen his battle armor, he would never miss such a thing. Before he became the master who brought the Hydra back to the right way, he didn't mind using the power of the Hydra. After all, this is considered to be using the power of the subordinates in advance. Welfare or something, of course there will be, for example. Bakshi thought he would take the initiative this time. After all, he came here when he was ready. However, after coming here, he realized that the preparations he had made were better than not being prepared. More than half an hour later, Bakshi left the office with a complicated expression. Although Russell has agreed to join Hydra, he always feels that something is not right. But what's wrong, he can't tell now. Do not care. Anyway, the task of the organization has been completed, and other people will naturally handle the rest. Not long after Bakshi left, Russell also left the office and drove to the Continental Hotel. Continental Hotel. Wine tasting room. Mr. Bradley, good morning. The sommelier in a neat suit said to Russell. Good morning. Sir, what style do you want to taste this time? Recently, some new varieties have arrived. I wonder if you are interested in tasting it, sir. The sommelier put down the pistol he was wiping and said slowly. Of course I'm interested, otherwise what am I doing here? Russell said with a smile. After more than 10 minutes, he left the tasting room under the surprised gaze of the sommelier. Before, every time he came to the tasting room, he would only buy a small amount of weapons. This is not because he doesn't need so many weapons, but because he buys too many and it is not convenient for him to carry. But it's different now. If you don't do one, you will never stop. He bought all the weapons in the tasting room, none of which was left. With the system space in hand, it is so willful. However, in order to avoid exposing the existence of the system space, he did not open the system space in the tasting room, but asked the sommelier to pack the weapons to the office. After he finished getting the goods at the Continental Hotel, he drove back to the office. Diana is on a business trip. He doesn't have any commissions on hand right now. Enough people have been killed during this time. So, he began to think about whether to take a few detectives to pass the time. However, the plan is beautiful, the reality is cruel. Although he is well known in the field of detectives, and he is also one of the consultants of the New York Police Department, this does not mean that he can receive interesting detective commissions. After looking at the detective commission letter that Peter had sorted out these days, he sighed helplessly. These entrustments are either asking him to catch his cheating husband, or asking him to find lost cats and dogs. The only one who looked at the past was asking him to find underage girls who ran away from home. After reading these commissions, he decisively gave up the idea of being a detective to pass the time. 4 p.m. After school, Peter came to the office with a happy face. The few days I just received my salary were all quite happy. Although Peter is not yet an adult, he has already experienced the joy of an adult migrant worker. Sir, good afternoon, Peter said to Russell energetically. Russell, who was playing a console game, looked up at Peter and said slowly, Good afternoon. Sir, is there anything I need to do today? Peter asked again. Russell put down the gamepad, asked Peter to sit down in front of him, and said with a serious face, The curriculum in school should be easy for you, right? It's okay, I got all A's. Peter said shyly. Although he is not a popular figure in the school, there is no doubt that he is indeed a very good student. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to tinker with the spider web launcher and the spider silk that has excellent pulling performance and can be automatically decomposed. When the doomed spider would be willing to bite Peter, Russell couldn't be sure now. But one thing he was sure of was that Peter had the potential to be a genius inventor. This is also the main reason why he specially courted Peter. You are a very smart child, you shouldn't waste your ingenuity. I plan to build a laboratory, and I hope you can join. After hearing Russell's words, Peter was stunned for a moment, and then slowly asked, Lab? What type of laboratory? Military technology. Military technology. The doubts on Peter's face became more obvious. Yes, military technology like Stark Industries and Hammer Industries. Although Russell has plans to use Hydra to strengthen his endosymbiotic battle armor, before he becomes the owner of Hydra, he will not trust Hydra people too much. But little Peter was different. Compared with Hydra, Peter is more trustworthy. Don't look at him now that he is only 16 years old. If he really wants to study something, he may not be worse than those scientists at Hydra. But I've never learned anything in the field of military industry. Peter said a little less confidently. It doesn't matter, I haven't learned it before, it doesn't mean I won't be able to do it in the future. Tony Stark didn't invent weapons at birth. Russell continued to seduce Peter. He didn't need Peter to invent all kinds of cross-generational weapons like Tony did. As long as Peter can strengthen the endosymbiotic armor to a certain extent, he will be satisfied. Okay, so when do I start? It will take a while to set up a laboratory. After it is set up, I will tell you that you should take this card first and buy some professional books to study it. Russell took out a bank card from the drawer and handed it to Peter. The password is your birthday. If you don't have enough money, just tell me. He just got this bank card today, and there is $1 million in it, which is enough to meet Peter's preliminary study needs. Peter did not refuse and took the bank card handed by Russell. In the United States, any professional book is not cheap. A typical example of this is university textbooks. The high price of textbooks has made countless college freshmen realize that knowledge is wealth. In the United States, a college career without buying secondhand textbooks from seniors and sisters is an incomplete college career. Okay, let's start with the lab affairs. You should continue to study photography today. Remember, a man who can't photograph is not a good man. After flicking Peter to fiddle with the camera, Russell picked up the gamepad again and played a blacksmith game in which a bright red, big word, death, could be seen on the characters' heads from time to time. Although Russell has some talent in combat, but I don't know what went wrong. In reality, he could kill the quartet, but in this blacksmithing game, he was abused horribly. Peter went home after fiddling with the camera for 2 hours in the office. Although he didn't mind staying in the office a little longer, Russell just let him go home. This is Hell's Kitchen. Now Peter is not Spider-Man, and Hell's Kitchen at night is too dangerous for him. A fresh and delicious miner like him, appearing in Hell's Kitchen at night is like a rabbit entering a pack of wolves. When Peter came home, Russell also put down the gamepad. This lion-ape, he didn't fight for 2 hours, so he read the dead words over and over again. Just when he was about to leave the office and find a place to settle dinner, a middle-aged man in a black suit and black sunglasses with a severely receding hairline appeared in the office. Although the man hadn't spoken yet, Russell knew his identity the first time he saw him. Phil Coulson, a Level 8 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., a model of an American agent, an avid fan of Captain America, and one of the most powerful subordinates of Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. After coming to this world, although Russell has never dealt with Coulson, it does not mean that he does not know Coulson. In a way, he even knew about Coulson's future. Mr. Bradley, hello, I'm Phil Coulson, director of the New York branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. After entering the office, Coulson took off his sunglasses and said directly. While introducing himself, he also stretched out his right hand towards Russell, as if to shake hands with Russell. However, Russell had absolutely no intention of shaking hands with Coulson, but looked at his left hand. Broken hand stems can also be regarded as a traditional art in the Marvel world. Coulson is one of them. Is something wrong? Russell turned his gaze back to Coulson's face and said casually. Coulson smiled and retracted his right hand, and said slowly, "Can you sit down and talk?" Sit down. Although Coulson has not indicated his intention yet, Russell can roughly guess why he came here. If nothing else, Coulson also came here for the endosymbiotic battle armor. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. has a lot of black technology, they are also very interested in high-tech armor. After sitting down, Coulson looked at Russell, who was sitting opposite, and said kindly, "Yesterday, we observed a flying phenomenon. I know, Mr. Bradley, you were flying around the city yesterday wearing a set of high-tech armor. A few laps. It's convenient to ask, is that suit of armor the latest product of Stark Industries?" Although they are all interested in endosymbiotic battle armor, the style of S.H.I.E.L.D. is completely different from that of Hydra. Bakshi, who came on behalf of Hydra, wanted to study the armor as soon as he opened his mouth. And Coulson, who came on behalf of S.H.I.E.L.D., was more than a little euphemistic. "I shouldn't be obliged to confess to you, right?" Russell asked rhetorically. Although Hydra is not a good organization, he doesn't like S.H.I.E.L.D. either. Not to mention that the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a black man. He just couldn't like the face of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, "Everything I do is to protect the world." Yes, S.H.I.E.L.D. is indeed a legitimate intelligence agency with an official background. But this does not mean that Russell will have any good impression of them. Legal is legal, like is like, these are two different things. "You really don't have such an obligation," I just asked casually. Coulson didn't care about Russell's attitude at all, and said with a smile, "Is there anything else? If not, I have to get off work." Russell said directly, "We are very interested in that set of armor. If you want, we hope to buy your armor. If you don't want to sell the armor, we are also willing to acquire some relevant technical data." Robbery has never been the style of S.H.I.E.L.D. They tend to use legal means to solve things that can be solved by legal means. Of course, when facing dangerous elements and terrorist organizations, there are exceptions. Whether it's battle armor or data, I have no plans to sell it. Russell refused without thinking. Selling the battle armor to S.H.I.E.L.D., unless he has a water in his head, he will never make such a crazy decision. Even if S.H.I.E.L.D. was willing to exchange the cosmic Rubik's Cube, he would never consider it. Although the cosmic cube is a good thing. But if he wanted it, he would consider grabbing it directly instead of trading the armor. Although stealing other people's things is not something worth advocating, the cosmic cube is not originally from S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. also snatched it from Hydra. S.H.I.E.L.D. can the cosmic cube from Hydra, and of course he can cosmic cube from S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't forget, he is now a member of Hydra. Although it has been less than a day since he joined Hydra, it doesn't matter. It is very reasonable to take back the cosmic Rubik's Cube from S.H.I.E.L.D. for Hydra. "It's okay, this is my business card. If you change your mind, you can contact me at any time." After speaking, Coulson took out a business card from his jacket pocket and put it on the table in front of Russell. After putting away the business card, Coulson got up and nodded to Russell, and left the office without looking back. After Coulson left, Russell took a look at the business card on the table. Then, it was thrown directly into the trash can. Hell's Kitchen. Happy Peacock Chinese Restaurant. Russell was sitting in the dining room, enjoying dinner alone. Diana went on a business trip and had nothing to do when she got home. Just when he was considering whether to go to the Continental Hotel to have some fun, such as chatting with Perkins about life, he saw a person. What happened today? Why did one or two jump out? On the dim street corner opposite the restaurant, stood a man in a tight red uniform. Although the light was a little dim, Russell recognized his identity at the first sight of this man. This man is none other than Daredevil Matt Murdock. Although Jin Bing spent $10 million to offer a reward for Daredevil's true identity. But until now, no one has claimed the bounty. If Russell wanted to take it, he could take it. However, he is not interested in Jin Bing's bounty, nor is he interested in the grievance between Jin Bing and Daredevil. As long as they don't bother him, even if they turn Hell's Kitchen into a battlefield in Syria, he won't be interested. After seeing Daredevil standing on a dimly lit street corner like a street girl, Russell turned to look around. Is he not alone? Besides Daredevil, he saw 3 other people in other parts of the street. A strong black man in a hoodie. A man in a green uniform with a yellow hood. A brunette woman in jeans and a black leather jacket. What is this? Is it a team activity? Except for the man in the green uniform, there was nothing wrong with the black and brunette woman, and they were dressed normally. But after seeing them, Russell immediately guessed their identities. Tekken, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. The three of them, plus Daredevil, are all the members of the superhero team the Defenders are today. Although the Defenders are usually active in Hell's Kitchen, Russell doesn't think they appear here by accident. Judging from their positions, this looks like a roundup no matter what. As for the target of the roundup, it was naturally him who was sitting in the restaurant with the third bowl of beef noodles. After discovering the traces of Daredevil and others, Russell did not stop fanning. The sky and the earth are big, and the food is the biggest. A mere League of Defenders is not enough to make him put down his chopsticks. Although he had never dealt with Daredevil before. But why Daredevil brought Iron Fist and others to him, he could probably guess the reason. If nothing else, Daredevil came for the Punisher. Because of the violent behavior, most superheroes avoid the Punisher, do not regard him as a part of the superhero, and even conflict with him. But even so, the Punisher still has some good friends among superheroes. Daredevil is one of them. As for the reason, of course, because he and Daredevil are both paranoid and aggressive people. There were no witnesses to Russell's fight with the Punisher. But with a little inquisition about Punisher's actions before his death, you can guess who killed him. Jarrus must be reported, weeds and roots are cut. The style of a crazy traveler is no secret in the underworld of New York. Russell ignored Daredevil and the others outside the restaurant, and carefully tasted the beef noodles in front of him. The owner of the restaurant is an immigrant from a flower gardener who has just arrived in the United States for a few years. The restaurant is not large, a mom-and-pop shop, and a small business. Although the restaurant's environment is very general, the owner's craftsmanship is very authentic, and he didn't mess with the craftsmanship passed down by his ancestors in order to cater to the tastes of the American people. Russell has been to the restaurant a few times before, and he is considered a regular customer. After eating the last bowl of beef noodles with soup and noodles in front of him, he took out $200 from his wallet and pressed a corner with the empty bowl. After pouring a toothpick from the toothpick holder and holding it in his mouth, he got up and walked outside. Thank you for the hospitality, the boss's craftsmanship is very good. When passing by the proprietress and waiter of the restaurant, Russell took off the toothpick in his mouth and spoke to the proprietress in standard Mandarin. After speaking, she nodded to the proprietress and quickly left the restaurant. After coming out of the restaurant, he put the toothpick back in his mouth and hooked his finger at Daredevil, who was standing on the darkened corner across the street. Don't you just want to avenge the Punisher? If you're not afraid of death, come here. After hooking his finger at Daredevil provocatively, he didn't wait for Daredevil to respond, turned around and walked towards an alley far from the restaurant. 1-on-4. It looked a little troublesome, but when he really started, Russell didn't feel much trouble. Although Daredevil has 4 other extraordinary senses besides vision, he is proficient in a variety of fighting techniques, and his physique is slightly better than that of ordinary people, but his physical strength is still at the level of normal human beings. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are a little more troublesome. They all have extraordinary physiques that are far beyond normal humans, and their strength and physique are all in line with the standards of extraordinary humans. But Russell also has something like extraordinary physique, and he is stronger than them. As for Iron Fist, he's not as physically fit as Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. However, he has cultivated in Kunlun, and he has a special energy, chi, which can be used to strengthen himself or achieve some extraordinary uses. But it's not too difficult to deal with. In the game, if the level of economic level is not too different, if 4 bronze players play in a group, they can indeed kill a king player. But unfortunately, the real world is not a game, and there is no so-called balance mechanism. In reality, the strong stay strong and the weak stay weak. If you want to change your life against the sky, you must first see if you have the aura of the protagonist. Russell walked ahead, and the 4 Daredevil walked towards him from different directions. After he first entered the dark, damp, garbage-filled alley, the 4 Daredevil also quickly entered the alley. Russell did not escape. Not long after entering the alley, he stopped, turned around and waited for the arrival of the 4 Daredevil. Not long after, the 4 Daredevil appeared in front of him. Before you start, do you have anything to say? For example, reprimand my sins, make a declaration of justice or something. Russell moved his neck, spat out the toothpick in his mouth, and said arrogantly, "There's nothing to say to someone like you. The leading daredevil held the two multifunctional short sticks in his hand called Billy's Club, and said coldly, "There's nothing to say, so why are you answering? You have nothing to do when you are free." Russell said with disdain. Although the appearance of Daredevil and others was not what he expected, it has to be said that the appearance of Daredevil and others slightly disrupted his plan. "It's rare that my girlfriend is on a business trip, so she can play games all night. In the end, I didn't expect that someone would jump out and find trouble for him. Stop talking nonsense with him, and solve him as soon as possible. I have a bad feeling." Iron Fist, wearing a green tight-fitting uniform and a yellow hood, came to Daredevil and said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, Luke Cage rushed towards Russell first. The tall and strong Luke Cage charged straight towards Russell like a heavy truck. In the blink of an eye, he came to Russell, his black fist smashed towards Russell's head like a hammer. Bang! Russell did not dodge or evade, and he also threw a punch. In terms of height, he is 17 or 18 centimeters shorter than Luke Cage. In terms of weight, he is only over 70 kilograms, and he is far from being able to compare with Luke Cage, who weighs 193 kilograms. But in the superhuman world, strength isn't entirely determined by size. It looks like a normal person, but there are not many superhumans who lift dozens of tons of heavy objects with their bare hands. Two fists, one big and one small, slammed into each other fiercely. There was a huge sound like a beating drum. If it weren't for the poor lighting in the alley, you could even see the shock wave of air produced when two fists collided. Although Russell does not have an advantage in size, his strength is not weaker than Luke Cage at all. After the punch, he and Luke Cage took a few steps back. Russell only took 3 steps back, while Luke Cage took 7 full steps to regain his balance. That's it. Just because of this, you want to defend your so-called justice. Do you look down on me too much? After personally feeling the power of Luke Cage's punch, Russell said with a displeased face. The next second, without giving Luke Cage and others a chance to attack again, his legs suddenly exerted force, and the whole person rushed in front of Luke Cage like a cannonball. Without any hesitation, his fist slammed wildly like a Gatling gun, hitting the tall and strong Luke Cage. Luke Cage did not expect that Russell would dare to take the initiative to attack when he was surrounded. Unprepared, he was hit a few times by Russell. If it was just a few punches, it wouldn't be a big problem for him. But the problem is that, having lost the first mover advantage, he has no chance to fight back at all. Not only that, when he was desperately resisting Russell's fist, Russell's right hand suddenly held his head. Boom! Russell, who was holding down Luke Cage's head, suddenly exerted force with his right arm, forcibly pressing Luke Cage to the ground, making his big, round black head come into an exciting and intimate contact with the ground. The ground is hard. Luke Cage's head is also very hard. But relatively speaking, the ground is a little harder. Because the ground does not bleed. Luke Cage was originally just a street gangster. Because of his age and other reasons, he decided to say goodbye to the life of a street gangster. Unfortunately, things backfired. Not long after he changed his face, he was framed by a good friend from the past and put in prison. In order to get out of prison sooner, he volunteered to accept an experiment to recreate the super soldier program that Captain America went through. During the experiment, a prisoner who was hostile to him broke into the laboratory and wanted to kill him while the experiment was going on. As a result, he did not expect that, due to a mistake, he had a genetic mutation, his physique was greatly increased, his strength was greatly improved, and at the same time, he obtained an extraordinary physique that is invulnerable to swords and guns. His musculature and bone density have been strengthened, he can lift 25 tons and punch through 10 centimeters thick steel plates with his fists. His skin is extremely hard, it can withstand the collision of a 1-ton heavy object, can withstand the attack of cold weapons such as swords and daggers, and can even withstand the close-range shooting of conventional pistols and the explosion of TNT explosives. His regeneration ability is also 3 times faster than that of ordinary people. When attacking Luke Cage, Russell's mind came to the information he had read before crossing. However, it turns out that there are some things, there is no way to know the real answer without really testing it. Whether Luke Cage could lift a 25-ton weight, or withstand the close-range fire of a conventional pistol and the detonation of TNT, Russell didn't know. But he now knows that when he smashes Luke Cage's head to the ground with all his strength, Luke Cage's head will also bleed. Although he didn't directly smash Luke Cage's head like a falling watermelon, he still showed a satisfied smile after seeing Luke Cage's head smashed into a big hole and bleed. Invulnerable. Dare to say that it is invulnerable. Russell's attack was too sudden. Not only the three Daredevil did not think of it, Luke Cage himself did not think of it. When Luke Cage's head came into close contact with the ground, the three Daredevil finally reacted. Without any hesitation, the three Daredevil attacked Russell at the same time. Adults fight, children don't make trouble. Watching the three Daredevil lightning strike him, Russell not only did not let go of his right hand, but instead grabbed Luke Cage's head again and slammed into the ground heavily. Boom! The huge impact sounded again, and the small stones produced by the ground breaking flew out like bullets. At the same time, 4 black tentacles like a fox's tail gushed out from Russell, who was half squatting. These 4 black tentacles gushed out from his back waist, stabbing the attacking Daredevil 3 like spears. There are only 3 enemies attacking him now, but he controls the Venom symbiote to spew out 4 sharp tentacles like tails. This is not because he is not good at mathematics, or because of a momentary error in control, but because he did it on purpose. Now, he is imitating the cute Kaneki among Tokyo foodies with a Venom symbiote. Kaneki's original Heiko form is the 4 sharp Heiko tails gushing out from the back waist. This is also the form of Hezi that Kaneki Cutie inherited from Li Shi. 3 of the sharp black tentacles were controlled by him and attacked the 3 Daredevil. The remaining 1 came to Luke Cage. The smashed Luke Cage has no chance to resist Russell at all. He is not dead yet, and his extraordinary physique is already working. The black tentacle that came to him wrapped around his neck like a python and lifted him up. On the other side, the 3 Daredevil were still resisting the attack of the black tentacles. When they decided to eradicate Russell, a vicious and brutal killer, they investigated Russell's intelligence and knew that Russell had an extraordinary physique far beyond ordinary people. But unfortunately, their information is somewhat outdated. In their investigation, Russell was an extraordinary human who could lift a car with his bare hands and jump to a height of 10 or 20 meters. Although his performance was a bit exaggerated, to Daredevil and others, it was nothing. They also have people with extraordinary physiques, and there are 2 more. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones can do things like lift cars with bare hands. But they never thought that the extraordinary physique was a thing of the past. What Russell has now is not just an extraordinary physique. However, this is also normal. Those who have seen him use the Venom symbiote ability, except for Diana and Tony Ethan, have all gone to see Mephisto. The people in the textile factory are dead. The Punisher is also dead. The same goes for the terrorists in Afghanistan and the 10 Rings. All those guys who have seen him use the Venom symbiote and are also enemies, without exception, all died. This led to the fact that, in the eyes of the outside world, Russell's extraordinary ability was still only his ordinary extraordinary physique. However, the fact is that his Venom symbiote is no worse than the extraordinary physique. Although the 3 Daredevil tried to rescue Luke Cage from Russell, it was a pity that they could not even get close to Russell, let alone rescue Luke Cage, under the obstruction of the black tentacles. They could only watch helplessly as Russell manipulated the black tentacles and lifted Luke Cage, who was covered in blood. Fortunately, Luke Cage himself is a black man, and he looks a little less miserable with blood on his face. After all, black is a very domineering color. After lifting Luke Cage, Russell controlled the other 3 black tentacles to force the 3 Daredevil back. You know, I understand more and more now why the villains in the movie like to complain about the protagonist representing justice when fighting. Because those protagonists who claim to be righteous are really over the top. 4 sharp tentacles emerged from the back waist, and the monster like Russell tilted his head and said to the 3 Daredevil. Just when the 3 Daredevil were about to refute him, he raised his finger, put it in front of his mouth and snorted lightly, signaling the 3 Daredevil not to interrupt their performance. The villain died of too much talk. This is a stock that the screenwriter and the audience can't get enough of. I originally liked this meme a lot. I'm playing a meme. When I complain about the villain, I can prove that I am a humorous person. It kills 2 birds with 1 stone. There's nothing wrong with it. Speaking of which, Russell paused, and looked up at Luke Cage, who was lifted up by the black tentacles. Then, he continued, but have you ever thought about why a villain who is obviously very smart has the slogan of dying by talking too much? Could it be that there really is a rule that the evil does not prevail over the good, so the ambitious villain must be defeated by the righteous protagonist? No, 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 the world doesn't care about justice and evil based on the standards of human good and evil. The villain's death by talking too much has nothing to do with evil or not, and it has nothing to do with the victory of justice. The villain in the movie is always defeated, but the justice in reality is not fair. There is only one reason: because of political correctness. Because only politically correct movies can be released. As for reality, who cares about this reality? By the way, since we talked about political correctness, let's talk about a topic that you Americans prefer: racial discrimination. Speaking of which, you may be a little disbelieving. In your country that prides itself on being fair and just, I, who just entered the business as a killer, actually experienced racial discrimination. They are already killers who work hard for money. Because of my skin color, I get paid a little less than other killers. Even if my commission is more perfect, it's still useless. So later, I learned some very important truths from you here. Justice. The winner is justice. Whoever has the bigger fist will have the right to speak. Just like now, you can't wait to kill me immediately, but you can only stand there and listen to my villain's eloquent talk. By the way, do you think I am an arrogant and ignorant villain now? No, you are wrong. I tell you all this because these words have been in my heart for a long time, and I have never had the opportunity to express my true thoughts to you representatives who claim to be righteous. Now I finally have this opportunity, so I don't want to vomit. Finally, in order to make you more determined to eliminate my villain, let me tell you one thing. As a person, I hate two kinds of people the most. The first is racial discrimination, the second is silence. Quote. After speaking, Russell manipulated the other three black tentacles, wrapping around Luke Cage's hands and right leg. Then, he pulled at the black tentacle with all his strength, tearing Luke Cage in midair. Welcome to the real world where the villains have a chance to win. Luke Cage, who was still struggling, was instantly torn apart, and blood and mutilated corpses fell from the air like raindrops. Although I can make Luke Cage die a little more decently. For example, suffocate him to death, or give him the same cardiac paralysis as Punisher. But Russell didn't think about it at all. Anyway, they've already been offended, so let's just offend to the end. Seeing the shocked expressions on the faces of Jessica Jones and Daredevil, he deliberately shrugged and tilted his neck to show a smile. How dare you? Jessica Jones looked at Russell angrily, as if she was going to devour him alive. Not only Jessica Jones, Daredevil and Iron Fist both showed cold killing intent at the same time. They rarely show such strong killing intent, but the scene of Russell killing Luke Cage completely angered them. Russell ignored the anger and killing intent on their faces, manipulated the black tentacles, and threw Luke Cage's head and broken limbs out like garbage. Don't you just want to defend the justice in your heart? Let's go. Russell raised his right hand and hooked his fingers towards the three of them. At this time, in fact, he no longer needs to continue provoking Daredevil and others. Luke Cage's death meant that only one of them could leave here alive tonight. Without any hesitation, Jessica Jones, who was Luke Cage's girlfriend, ran towards Russell without saying a word. At this time, she no longer cares whether Russell has devil-like black tentacles. There was only one thought in her mind now, and that was to kill Russell with her own hands to avenge Luke Cage's hatred. The idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. In terms of strength, Jessica Jones is even worse than Luke Cage. Although she has a potential bigger than Luke Cage, has superhuman strength and physical fitness, and also has a strong ability to resist physical damage. After training, she can even learn to fly. But unfortunately, she obviously hasn't developed her abilities to the limit now. In a way, she's like the female version of Luke Cage. When Jessica Jones ran towards him, Russell manipulated the black tentacles behind him. Two tail-like sharp tentacles attacked Jessica Jones like two sharp blades. Jessica was furious over Luke Cage's death. Daredevil and Iron Fist were equally angry, but they were much calmer than Jessica. When Jessica took the lead in attacking Russell, the two of them did not hesitate at all, and they also attacked Russell from left to right. As Daredevil attacked Russell, he combined the two short sticks in his hand into one and connected them into a long stick. On the fist of Iron Fist, a golden light visible to the naked eye emerged. Gas. In addition to the golden light shining from his fists, there were also visible streaks of chi on his body. These chi condensed into a typical Oriental dragon and surrounded him. From the perspective of visual effects, Iron Fist is undoubtedly more like a financial warrior than Daredevil. At least it looks a lot better. However, Russell did not attack him first. While controlling the two black tentacles to attack the rampant Jessica, he opened the system space and equipped the remaining two black tentacles with weapons. Without the black tentacles blocking him, Daredevil easily came to Russell. Just when he was about to smash the long stick in his hand at Russell, to show him the advanced stick skills he had learned from the old man, he suddenly heard a strange sound. His extraordinary senses came into play at this time, and a special image like a 3D map appeared in his mind. Although he could not perceive what the two black tentacles behind Russell were doing, he knew that what he had just heard was the sound of bullets being loaded. Without any hesitation, Daredevil forcibly stopped his forward body, changing from an attacking stance to a defensive stance. But it was still too late. If Daredevil still had the vision, he would now be able to find out that there were two famous machine guns behind Russell. Gatling gun. Russell just went to the tasting room of the Continental Hotel this morning to make a purchase. In his system space, there is now a batch of weapons enough to fight a small urban war. Not to mention the Gatling gun, even the anti-tank rocket launcher and the Stinger air defense missile, there are 5 or 6 rounds in the system space. Russell did not give Daredevil much time to regret, and decisively manipulated the black tentacles and pulled the trigger of the Gatling gun. The rhythmic gunshots suddenly sounded. Blue flames burst from the barrel of the Gatling gun. He is indeed using a Gatling machine gun now, but it is a bit different from an ordinary Gatling. What he is using now is Gatling with blue fire. Said it was a blue fire, but it was actually a bullet loaded with special gunpowder. These two Gatlings with blue fire were not customized by Russell himself. According to the sommelier's explanation, some time ago, a killer ordered these two Gatlings in the hotel. But unfortunately, the killer didn't come to pick up the goods. As for the reason, you don't need to ask. Namo Gatling Bodhisattva, 6 pure depleted uranium bombs, revolutions in one breath, great mercy and great compassion to transcend the world. Daredevil, times have changed. Russell is not a handman, and has no habit of having to use cold weapons. For him, as long as it can kill people, let alone thermal weapons, even nuclear weapons are not inconceivable. Daredevil and Iron Fist never thought that Russell would suddenly take out 2 Gatling guns. They knew that Russell was a good marksman. When they observed Russell outside the restaurant, they had already confirmed that Russell did not have many weapons on his body. Just a pistol or something. After all, pistols are small, so it is normal to carry them around. But the big and thick Gatling didn't look like he could hide under his clothes. When Russell and Luke Cage fought, they didn't use any weapons, which made them believe in their previous judgments. But now, here are the 2 big, thick Gatling guns. However, now they don't have to spend time thinking about where Russell pulled out the Gatling. Because, the storm-like bullet storm has already hit them head-on. For ordinary people, Daredevil and Iron Fist are both very good superheroes. However, that doesn't mean they can easily dodge bullets. Pistols and rifles don't matter. As long as they are not accurately aimed, the possibility of successful evasion is still very high. But the Gatling gun is different. This thing doesn't need precise aiming at all, and the huge recoil doesn't support Gatling's precise aiming. For the Gatling machine gun, precise aiming is not important at all. What people are playing is a fire suppression. Chapter 51. There is a saying that is quite right. Since the invention of Gatling, steppe nomads have become good at singing and dancing. Although Daredevil is not a nomad in the grasslands, he is also very good at singing and dancing now. With his extraordinary senses, Daredevil avoided the initial burst of the Gatling gun. However, he soon encountered a new problem. The place where they are now is not a wide place, but a dark and damp alley. Daredevil and others never thought that when Russell brought them into the alley, he was ready to bully them with a Gatling gun. In their opinion, Russell arrogantly chose a battlefield that was not suitable for escape. But in fact, this is the grave that Russell chose for them. Relying on his extraordinary senses and clever skills to escape the initial burst of the Gatling gun, and realizing that he didn't have enough space to dodge, Daredevil made a move that Russell didn't expect. I saw that he suddenly gave up dodging, waving the long stick in his hand, trying to rush to Russell. The red sticks were spinning like the wings of a helicopter. What does this guy think? Are you going to block the bullet with a long stick? Using a knife to block a bullet, Russell has seen it in movies and anime. However, in reality, he has never seen anyone who would really do such a crazy act. Blocking bullets with a knife looks very handsome. But there is a high probability that you will die miserably. Unless it is really talented, has amazing hand speed, or has an undead body, otherwise, such a famous scene will probably not happen. Russell didn't know what Daredevil was thinking. However, he did not stop shooting. Not only that, he also controlled another Gatling and shot frantically at Iron Fist. Whether it was Daredevil or Iron Fist, he had no plans to let it go. Kill them all. This is his usual style. For various inexplicable reasons, he let go of the enemy, and after the enemy became stronger, he came to seek revenge for himself. Unless his brain is flooded, otherwise, he will never do such a thing. Not right. Even if his brain is flooded, he won't do it. Although Daredevil has done his best, the reality will not change because of his tenacious will. The long stick in his hand did resist a small part of the bullet, causing the bullet to hit the long stick with sparks. But more bullets hit his body directly, making him a sieve. All this sounds a bit long. But from Russell controlling the Gatling gun to Daredevil being beaten into a sieve, it only took 3 or 4 seconds in total. Iron Fist and Jessica are too late to grieve for Daredevil, because the situation they face now is no better than Daredevil before his death. After finishing Daredevil, 2 Gatlings fired at Iron Fist at the same time. The continuous loud gunshots and the crashing sound of bullet casings falling one after another to the ground created a strange and beautiful piece of music. However, for Iron Fist, this wonderful piece of music is no different from Hell's Welcome Song. His fists kept throwing out, shining with more and more dazzling light. The Kai wrapped around him, trying to resist the oncoming bullets. However, in the face of absolute firepower suppression, Chi is not strong enough, and the defense against bullets is not as good as the most ordinary extraordinary physique among extraordinary abilities. As a traveler from a flower gardener, Russell actually had a good impression of Kunlun. However, he didn't like the current Iron Fist Danny Rand at all. The weakest Iron Fist ever. After seeing the current Tekken Danny Rand, Russell remembered what an unnamed Bajikwan master said. Teach you, it's a waste of ancestors. The people from Kunlun are also the ones who don't teach well, they have to teach Danny Rand. But then again, Kunlun's gang has always had some problems with their vision. Hundreds of years ago, they taught 5 scoundrels who deceived their teachers and destroyed their ancestors. Now, they have taught Danny Rand, the weakest Iron Fist in history. If you have a chance in the future, you must go to Kunlun to see it, lest those guys in Kunlun continue to waste the things passed down by the ancestors. Under the continuous fire of the 2 Gatling guns, Iron Fist did not last a few seconds longer than Daredevil, and was also beaten into a sieve. When Iron Fist also accompanied Daredevil on the road, Russell finally stopped pulling the trigger and stopped the frantically spinning Gatling gun. Glancing at the corpses of Iron Fist and Daredevil, he put the hot Gatling gun back into the system space. At this time, there was only Jessica Jones left in the well-known Defenders League. When Russell took out the Gatling gun to attack Iron Fist and Daredevil, the rampant Jessica calmed down a lot. When Daredevil fell without the ability to resist, it wasn't that she didn't think about retreating. But Russell did not give her such a chance. Although multitasking is a somewhat troublesome ability, after possessing the reward of the Venom symbiote, Russell multitasked more and became more and more proficient. Not to mention just manipulating the black tentacles to stop Jessica from leaving. Even if he controls the black tentacles to fight while controlling the black tentacles to write novels, it is not difficult for him. Of course, the speed of writing novels can't be that fast. To become a tentacle monster, the most important thing is not the speed of the hand, but the speed of the brain. Hand speed or something, just practice more. But how to make the speed of brain thinking keep up with the speed of hand is the key to becoming a tentacle monster. After seeing the Gatling guns on the other 2 black tentacles disappear out of thin air, Jessica knew that she shouldn't have much chance to leave here alive tonight. In other words, with his own strength, there is not much strength left here alive. Thinking of this, she, who was resisting the attack of the black tentacles, suddenly stopped and raised her hands. You won, I'm not your opponent. Jessica raised her hands and said to Russell. That's why you give up resistance. It seems that you superheroes aren't particularly tenacious, right? Although he didn't know why Jessica made such an abnormal move, Russell still stopped the black tentacles and did not continue to attack Jessica. The huge gap in strength will not change significantly because of Will. Seemingly seeing that Russell also stopped, Jessica put down her hands and said slowly. Her tone is very calm now, as calm as chatting with an old friend. There was no anger, no killing intent, not even any obvious mood swings. What does she want to do? After noticing Jessica's abnormal change, several thoughts quickly flashed through Russell's mind. If you want to ask me to let you die, I advise you not to waste your efforts. Since you know that you came to ambush me near the office, you must have investigated my information beforehand. It's never the style of a traveler to spare an enemy's life. Russell said slowly. Crazy traveler, a debt must be repaid. Of course I've heard this sentence, but I still want to try it. If you continue to resist, you will only be sure to die. If you beg for mercy, there is still some possibility of surviving. When she spoke, Jessica deliberately straightened her chest and brushed her hair. It turned out to be the idea. Although Jessica didn't explicitly say, Russell is not just a chick just out of society. You can tell at a glance what she is thinking about by looking at her small movements. I remember that you are also a detective. From this perspective, we can be considered peers. Russell took a serious look at Jessica. Although Jessica is not Asian, she has long black hair at this time. With a petite figure, she does have some Asian demeanor. Although her appearance is not particularly stunning, she is delicate enough to be regarded as a part of beauty. In terms of figure, it's a little bit worse, but for a petite figure, it's still okay. Russell came to Jessica while looking at Jessica's appearance and figure. Looking at Jessica, who seemed to have completely conceded defeat, he said slowly, "What price can you pay to buy your life back?" After hearing Russell's words, Jessica showed a charming smile, looked up at him, and said, "Everything. As long as it's mine, it's all yours." "All, you mean your body?" "Of course," Jessica answered without any hesitation. However, as soon as she finished speaking, the black tentacles behind Russell wrapped around her neck like a prey python. "You are indeed very generous, but it's a pity that your body, like your life, is not very valuable." Click. After speaking, Russell did not hesitate, and manipulated the black tentacles to twist Jessica's neck. "Ah, seduce me and don't even look at who my girlfriend is. Am I so easily seduced?" Jessica does have a certain beauty. However, Russell's taste has been thoroughly cultivated by Diana. Compared with Diana, Jessica was obviously several levels lower. Besides this, there is another very important reason. Jessica looked a little unhealthy. Although Russell occasionally eats fast food, such as the blonde flight attendant named Melissa, it is also a healthy fast food. The kind of waste oil is no good. Not to mention that Jessica and Luke Cage are boyfriends and girlfriends, the ghost knows whether she has been trained by the Purple Man in this world. Although Russell had never heard of the Purple Man's name in the underground world, he could not guarantee that the Purple Man would not exist. After putting away the black tentacles and letting Jessica's body fall to the ground at will, he took out his mobile phone and called the familiar cleaner. Cleaners are corpses collectors. The reason why they are called cleaners rather than corpse collectors is because they not only help dispose of corpses, but also help clean up the scene. The fees for the cleaners are fair. 1 gold coin per person, and door-to-door service. After hanging up the phone, less than 10 minutes later, an elderly cleaner with white hair and a black leather coat came to Russell. "Long time no see, Mr. Bradley." "Not long, Charlie." Along with Charlie, there were 4 big men with various cleaning tools. Charlie's men are very efficient. It didn't take long for the bodies of Jessica and others to be packed and carried into a white van with the label, "Housekeeping." After taking out 4 gold coins from his pocket and handing them to Charlie, Russell walked towards his Porsche parked at the entrance of the Chinese restaurant. When he left the block in his Porsche, he saw 3 police cars approaching with their lights on. Obviously, his use of Gatling in the alley made some enthusiastic residents choose to call the police. According to the usual style of the NYPD, they should have come while the cleaners were still cleaning the scene. The average time for police officers in the United States to be out of the country is 6 minutes and 30 seconds. In a big city like New York, the alarm time can be reduced to less than 5 minutes. The more than 30,000 full-time officers of the New York Police Department are not dry. If it is in other neighborhoods, the New York police can indeed arrive at the police location within 5 minutes. But Hell's Kitchen is an exception. This is a place with a high crime rate, and there are 80 or 100 gangsters seeking a living here. The firepower conflict between gangsters is a beautiful sight here. Not to mention that Russell was just playing with Gatling guns in the alley. Even if he was playing with anti-tank rockets and C4 explosives, the New York police would not be able to do it for a while. Will come. It is precisely because he understands these styles of the New York police that he will let the cleanup workers come over to deal with the aftermath without any hassle. After returning to the office, he once again played the game called Wolf, but the game experience was a dog's iron game. Lion ape. If he doesn't get this guy, he doesn't plan to go back tonight. Anyway, Diana has gone on a business trip, so she has nothing to do when she returns. Many women have a misunderstanding of men, thinking that men are difficult to satisfy. But in fact, the happiness of a man can be very simple. For example, give him some undisturbed alone time. Although it's an easy thing to do, some women can't even do it. Time flies by. Before she knew it, Diana had been on a business trip for 3 days. During these 3 days, Russell fully enjoyed the happy time of single men. Except for being a little lonely at night when I go to bed, everything else is fine. Octopus Monster Office. Russell is playing games, and little Peter is learning professional military knowledge. Although Peter agreed to join Russell's military laboratory, he did not dare to let his beautiful aunt know that he was now learning military knowledge. Last time, when he handed his salary to his beautiful aunt, his aunt wondered if he was doing something illegal or criminal. If it wasn't for Russell's phone call to explain it later, it is estimated that Peter's internship would have ended here. Hesitation will lead to defeat. Ashina's swordsmanship is invincible. Once again named Juggernaut, but after the final boss of Marksmanship 6 was killed, Russell resisted the urge to crush the gamepad. Just when he was about to do it again, his phone suddenly rang. Winston's call. Looking at the name displayed on the screen, Russell frowned, put down the gamepad, and picked up the phone. "What's up? Jin also wants to meet you." Winston didn't talk nonsense, he said it directly. "Why does he want to see me?" Russell asked again. "He wants to thank you for your shot a few days ago." The shot a few days ago. Russell, who had just been abused by the Sword Saint, couldn't react for a while. "That has nothing to do with him. It's my own business. There's nothing to thank." Although Jin is not an underworld emperor, Russell has no idea of contacting him. He always felt that Jin Bing had the aura of Shenzhen Lone Star, which would bring misfortune to the people around him. For safety's sake, it's better for stay away from him. That is indeed your personal matter, but you did help him solve a problem. He has already transferred the $50 million to your account in the hotel. Winston seemed to be in a good mood and said with a smile. After hearing Winston's words, Russell raised an eyebrow. Sincerity is high enough. The $50 million was the reward for Jinbo's last attempt to entrust him to kill Daredevil. He didn't accept the request, but Jin Bian still called the money. From this point of view, Jin Bing's sincerity is not generally high. After thinking for a few seconds, he slowly said, "What does he want to see me for?" "Nothing special, I just want to meet you and see if there is any possibility of cooperation in the future. The time and place are all up to you. You can meet when it is convenient for you." Winston answered quickly. Russell fell silent and thought quickly. He killed Daredevil and others, except himself, only Charlie and his subordinates know. Although the cleaners will not take the initiative to reveal the employer's information, the cleaners are after all a special occupation that exists depending on the hotel. Winston is the manager of the Continental Hotel in New York. It is not difficult for him to know this from Charlie. Winston knew, and of course Kim also knew. Since he is so sincere, I can't give no face at all. Meet at the hotel at 8 o'clock tonight. Russell finally decided to meet Kim and see what he was thinking about. Okay, I'll tell him. After speaking, Winston hung up the phone. 8 p.m. Continental Hotel. Before leaving for the hotel, Russell finally killed the Juggernaut with a gun and cleared the entire game. In a happy mood, he drove his Porsche to the Continental Hotel. Karen, in a neat suit, is still at the front desk. Is Winston here? Russell asked Karen. Come on, in the restaurant. Karen looked at Russell and replied in a professional tone that couldn't find any fault. Nodding towards Karen, Russell walked directly towards the restaurant. Although it is dinner time now, there are not many customers in the restaurant. As soon as he came to the restaurant, he saw Winston and Kim Bing. Winston was still as suave as he was, chatting with Jinping in a low voice. Jinbi sat opposite Winston, nodding his head from time to time. Come on, let me introduce to you, this is Mr. Wesker, the famous Mr. Jinping. After seeing Russell's arrival, Winston got up directly and introduced to Russell. In fact, without his introduction, you can know that he is Kim Byong himself by seeing Kim Byong's unusual body shape. Jin is 2 meters tall and weighs 200 kilograms and looks like a little giant. In terms of body size alone, he has almost 2 Russells. Hello, I'm Russell, Russell said to Kim, who also stood up. Although Jin Bian looked a little serious, he took the initiative to stretch out his right hand and shook hands with Russell. After the introduction, the 3 of them sat down separately. A year ago, I wanted to meet you, but I didn't expect this opportunity until now. Jin and looked at Russell up and down and spoke first. It's not too late to meet now, is it? Russell didn't mind Jin Bing's scrutiny. When we shook hands just now, Jin Yan had the idea to test him. But I don't know why, Jin Bian finally gave up this plan and just shook hands with him normally. However, Jin Bing's small gesture of trying to exert force and finally giving up was still noticed by him. That's right, it's not too late to meet now. Jin was not as rebellious as the rumors from the outside world, and there was no sense of oppression in his tone. If it weren't for the seriousness of his appearance, maybe he could have gone down the suave route like Winston. In the following time, Kim didn't talk too serious with Russell at all, just like a new friend, talking kindly and casually. Since Jin didn't intend to take the initiative to reveal his purpose, Russell didn't bother to ask him. Even if he doesn't say it now, he will say it later, so don't worry too much. Russell chatted with Kim, while enjoying the top Kobe steak from Neon Country in front of him. He also ate a lot of meals in the hotel restaurant, but he never remembered that the hotel restaurant would still serve this top steak. The burnt brown surface, the magical texture of snowflake marble is more charming under the background of grease. The thick but not greasy meat aroma has already begun to mobilize the diner's sense of smell and taste buds before entering the mouth. Gently cut it open with a delicate knife, insert a small piece and put it in your mouth. The meat is tender and soft, the taste is crisp, plump and juicy. Melting at the entrance. High-end ingredients often only require the most simple cooking methods. After a busy, forging day, Russell began to experience the taste buds brought by Kobe steak. Simple cooking method, authentic and delicious taste. Apparently, these Kobe steaks were either Winston's private stock, or Kim and specially arranged. Top Kobe steak, Romane Conti in 1974. The perfect match. Although there are not many ingredients on the table, it can be seen that it was done carefully. At least Russell was satisfied. Pushing the cup for a change, chatting and laughing. If you only look at the surface, you will not be able to see that the underworld emperor, the top killer, and the manager of the killer hotel are sitting on this table. When the waiter in the restaurant took away the plates, knives, and forks, Jin Bing looked at Russell with a complicated expression, as if he was considering whether to talk to him about business. Seeing Jin Bing's strange expression, Russell didn't say anything, just picked up the wine glass and took a sip. The 1974 Romane Conti is a rare wine. But to be honest, he didn't drink any special taste. Jin also picked up the wine glass. However, instead of taking a sip like Russell, he drank the blood-like wine in the cup. After putting down the wine glass, he said slowly, I have a commission here. I wonder if you are interested. What commission? Russell also put down the glass. I want something, and I hope you can help me get it back. What? Dragon bone. When he said the word keel, Jin Bing's expression became extremely serious. Dragon bone. Russell looked at Jin Bing with some doubts. Of course he knows what a keel is. But the question is, what does Jin also want the keel to do? This guy also wants to be an immortal monster. What is a keel? Russell pretended to know nothing and said slowly. The keel is the bone of the dragon. You are a flower gardener. You should know exactly what the dragon is. Sorry, I have only heard of the existence of dragons in myths and legends. At this time, Russell showed extremely superb acting skills, as if he really didn't know anything. I can tell you clearly now that the dragon is real, and has extraordinary abilities just like in myths and legends. I know where the keel is, but my subordinates can't get it back. If you can get it back, I can give you an absolutely generous reward. Jin did not directly say where the keel was, nor did he specifically say what the reward would be. In fact, even if he didn't say it, Russell knew where the keel was. Kunlun, Hand, New York Underground. First of all, Kunlun can be directly ruled out. Even if Jin Biao knew about the existence of Kunlun, it was absolutely impossible to know the exact location of Kunlun. Then there are only two options left, the Hand and the New York Underground. Russell knew that a keel was buried somewhere underground in New York, but he didn't know exactly where it was buried. It seems that the Hand Association is also looking for these keels. I wonder if they have any specific information. Judging from what Jin Bing had just said, the keels he knew, Bakung, were those in the hands of the Hand. Although Jin Bing is an underworld emperor, he is a hegemon who cannot be ignored in the New York underworld. But the Hand Association is not a soft persimmon either. On the surface, the Hand is just a group of crazy killers that obeys ancient traditions. Russell is also a peer. But in fact, the Hand Society is a truly extraordinary organization. From the perspective of extraordinary abilities, the extraordinary purity of the Hand is even higher than that of Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, the Hand is really dealing with demons from other dimensions. Primitive demon, beast. Although Russell didn't know which dimension the beast was a demon, but from the point of view of the fact that the Hand is still alive and kicking, the beast should be a demon with no ambition. Otherwise, they would have been wiped out by the Supreme Mage Ji Yuyi and Kamatage in the early morning with the bouncing style of the hands. Regarding the origin of the Hand, Russell has two versions in his memory. One is that in 1588, a Neon countryman named Jingshin Yoshioka developed the Hand Society into an international organization, and later changed his name to Snake Root, and began to believe in the original Demon Beast, a notorious ninja killer group. The other is that the Hand is a ninja killer organization founded by Kunlun's traitor Mrs. Gao and others. As Kunlun's disciples, Mrs. Gao and others were expelled from Kunlun because they tried to use keel to prolong their life. When they escaped from Kunlun, they did not forget to bring the keel, and through the various abilities they learned in Kunlun, they created a Hand Club and became the master of the Hand Club, 5 Fingers. Russell had never dealt with the Hand Society before, but as a colleague, he still had some understanding of the Hand Society. First of all, the founders of the Hand Society of this world are Mrs. Gao and others. Secondly, the Hand Society here also believes in primitive evil beasts, because after the Hand Society ninjas here are defeated or killed, they will also disappear into ashes without leaving a trace. In the end, the hand-joined ninjas here are very traditional, and they only use cold weapons to cut people. Jin did not urge Russell, waiting patiently for his answer. After careful consideration, Russell finally made a decision. Although Jin is unlikely to get a reward that makes him particularly tempted, he still intends to accept this commission. There are 2 reasons. One is that there is a keel in the Hand, and the other is that Mrs. Gao and others knew how to enter Kunlun. What does Jinping want the keel to do? He doesn't know. But he felt that since the keel can be used to prolong life, there should be no big problem in using it to strengthen the body. Considering that he has a stunner girlfriend like Diana, he feels that he needs to further strengthen his physique. Alas, men are not easy to do. Especially when you have a demigod girlfriend. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but recall the picture of himself leaning against the wall. I can accept this request. However, I want more detailed information. Also, in addition to the reward you gave, I want half of the keel you get. Russell looked at Jin Ning next to him and said slowly. In order to avoid unpleasant things from happening in the future, he thought it would be better to talk to Jin first and make it clear. Jin did not hesitate, and immediately agreed. Although he knew the existence of the keel, he didn't know much about the keel. In his opinion, Russell wanted half of the keel just because he was a little curious about this special existence. After he lost interest in the keel, he could spend money to buy the half of the keel in his hand. Finally, after some conversations, they reached an agreement on this cooperation. Golden offered a remuneration of $100 million and entrusted Russell to make one shot. In addition to Russell, this time, there are two other people. Bullseye and Mr. Negative. Neither Bullseye nor Mr. Negative film are Jin Bing's subordinates, but foreign aid he invited at a high price. Bullseye, who used to be a mercenary, is now a professional killer, with an innate ability to throw precision. He can throw anything in his hand at his target with incredible precision, including unconventional weapons such as playing cards, paper planes, toothpicks, etc. In addition to his extraordinary throwing ability, he is also a professional martial artist and a marksman using both hot and cold weapons. Bullseye is the chief assassin hired by Kim and has done a lot of dirty work for him. When Daredevil attacked Jin Ping, if Bullseye was not present, Jin Ping would not have been seriously injured by Daredevil. Russell was not surprised that Bullseye would perform this commission together. However, Jin also hired Mr. Negative, which was somewhat beyond his expectations. Mr. Negative. In public, he is Martin Lee, the philanthropist who built the homeless shelter Feast. Little Peter's beautiful aunt is now volunteering at this shelter. But in the underground world of New York, Mr. Negative is one of the biggest gang leaders in New York, and the leader of the Devil Gang. Mr. Negative was originally a member of an unknown smuggler organization, and Martin Lee was not his real name. The real Martin Lee, a smuggler from China, died on the way to America. Mr. Negative lied that he was Martin Lee, successfully won the sympathy of the American government, and received the Medal of Freedom from the president, officially becoming an American. What his real name is, probably only he knows. He has super strength and physical fitness far beyond ordinary people, and is a master of street fighting. In addition, he can also catalyze the target's negative emotions by releasing negative energy, allowing relatives, friends, lovers and other people to kill each other. His negative energy can also be released into energy waves, or transformed into physical weapons, such as swords, spears and other cold weapons. All of his superpowers are derived from the inhumane synthetic drug experiments conducted on him by the Magia Gang. Although he has gained extraordinary abilities, he has also produced another crazy personality. It is precisely because of this that he hated the Magia Gang led by another gang leader, Hammerhead, and tried to completely eradicate the Magia Gang and become the Golden Merger of Washoe City, New York. In the Marvel Universe, Mr. Negative is not a particularly well-known supervillain. The reason why Russell knows him so well is because he is the key player in turning Venom into anti-venom, or serum. It is precisely because of the fusion of his negative energy and venom that the anti-venom serum was born of the aliens in the symbiote. When considering the evolution of Venom, Russell was already considering whether to find a chance to contact Mr. Negative to see if he could evolve Venom into serum. Although the current Venom is very useful, it is obviously weaker than the serum. Serum has the ability to cure diseases, such as gene mutation and drug addiction. Just not being afraid of sound waves and flames is enough to explain the problem. After accepting Jin Bing's request, Russell left the hotel and drove back to the apartment. Although Jin Ping is now eyeing the keel in the hands of the opponent, he has no plans to immediately attack the opponent. In his own words, he still needs to do some related preparations. Russell is not particularly concerned about what Jin Bing's so-called preparation is. Anyway, for him, grabbing a keel from the hand is not a big problem. Compared with the keel, which is basically no accident, he is now looking forward to meeting Mr. Negative. He now has an intuition that his venom may soon evolve into a serum. I don't know what Jin Biao was preparing for, but this preparation took a week. 2 in the morning, Manhattan, Midtown. Russell had planned to go to bed, but at 11 o'clock, he received a call from Jin Bing. If it wasn't for Jin and now his employer, he really wouldn't plan to come here in the middle of the night. The bright full moon hangs in the night sky. Under the shroud of moonlight and night, the bustling Midtown Manhattan now has an indescribable calm. Midtown is the busiest and most crowded area of Manhattan, and the highest density of skyscrapers in the world. The famous Empire State Building, Rockefeller Center and other world-renowned office buildings are here. Famous attractions such as Grand Central Station, New York Public Library, Fifth Avenue, and Broadway are also in this place. The evening wind kept blowing, and Russell unconsciously tightened his coat. Jin Bing's chief assassin Bullseye and the leader of the demon gang, Mr. Negative, are standing beside him now. They are now on the roof of an ordinary office building. And the building opposite them, according to Jin Bing, is an important stronghold of the Hand in New York. According to the information provided by Jin Biao, after half an hour, the 5 fingers of the Hand will come to the opposite building for a secret meeting. Russell didn't care where Jin Bing got this news. He is now looking at the Bullseye and Mr. Negative who are standing next to him with great interest. Bullseye was wearing a tight-fitting dark blue uniform, with a round logo similar to Target on the headgear that only exposed his mouth and chin. With a body with sharp edges and corners, you can tell at a glance that he is a good fighter. On the tactical belt around his waist, he wears weapons such as daggers and pistols. If Bullseye looks like he is going to fight, then Mr. Negative looks like an entrepreneur who is going to talk about acquisitions and cooperation. The suit is straight, and the black hair is meticulously managed. The current Mr. Negative did not enter the black and white form like a photo negative, but maintained the posture of a normal human being. While he was looking at Bullseye and Mr. Negative, they were also looking at Russell. Now Russell, wearing a black loose sports suit, looks like he is running at night, without any weapons on his body. Just looking at their current outfits, it is impossible to imagine that the 3 of them will rush into the opposite building and start a killing spree. Time passed little by little. After looking at the other party without saying a word for a few minutes, Russell took the lead and said, "I made it clear in advance, if anyone hurts everyone with this action this time, we'll have no face." He is now the top killer traveler of the Continental Hotel. Not to mention that he and Bullseye are not familiar with each other. Even if they are familiar, this is the style of a traveler. "Take care of yourself. I can only kill people, not save people." Bullseye looked at Russell gloomily and said silently. Mr. Negative did not speak. He went straight to the edge of the rooftop and looked at the building opposite. Although Jin and tried to make the 3 of them form a team to join hands. But it was clear that none of the 3 of them would be the type to cooperate with strangers. Don't say that Jin Bing is not here now. Even if they are, it is impossible for them to really regard each other as comrades in arms. They are all people who live in the underground world. If they were not vigilant, they would have died in some dirty sewer. The information Jinbian provided was very accurate. When the time came to 2:30 in the morning, 5 luxury cars of different brands drove downstairs in the opposite building. Porsche, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Maybach, Maserati. In the middle of the night, 5 luxury cars appeared in front of an ordinary office building at the same time. No matter how you looked at this scene, something was wrong. However, this is not what the 3 of Russell care about now. Are there no accompanying guards? Although the building opposite is an important stronghold of the Hand in New York, it still seems a little abnormal to travel without an escort. Mrs. Gao and others did not find the peeping of the 3 of Russell. After getting off the car, the 5 of them went straight into the building. The driver drove the car to the underground parking lot. "Hakuto, Murakami, Alexandra, these 3 are mine," Russell said slowly without looking at Bullseye and Mr. Negative. According to American political correctness, the 5 fingers of the Hand can be said to be perfectly in line with the values here. There are whites, blacks, and Asians in a ratio of 2:1:2. There are males and females, the ratio is 3:2. There are young and old. Forehead, not right. In terms of age, the 5 fingers of the Hand are all old monsters who have lived for hundreds of years. After speaking, Russell ignored Bullseye and Mr. Negative, silently stepped back a few meters, and calculated the distance between himself and the opposite building. Then, under the gaze of Bullseye and Mr. Negative, he took a run, his legs suddenly forced, and he jumped directly towards the opposite building. The whistling wind blew past his ears, and the evening wind ruffled his hair. Although it was dozens of meters apart, it was not a problem for Russell to jump over. I saw him draw a standard parabola in the air and landed firmly on the roof of the opposite building. Done. There is no suspense. Among the 3 of them, he is not only the strongest, but also the most rewarded. He doesn't know how much Jin Bing paid Bullseye and Mr. Negative. But one thing he can be sure of, the remuneration for the two of them must not include the keel. After arriving at the roof of the building, he did not hesitate and found a safe passage on the roof. With a slight force on his right hand, he violently pulled open the closed door. The door was destroyed, and a loud alarm sounded in the building. Amid the loud siren and the flashing red lights, he walked in without looking back. After seeing Russell break in such a simple and rude way, Bullseye and Mr. Negative looked at each other. Seeing the building on the opposite side that suddenly became lively, the two of them did not hesitate and began to use their own methods to break into the building. In the building of the hand, Russell took out the modified Glock 34 from the system space. The standard magazine of the Glock 34 is 17 rounds, and the one he is holding now has been modified to 25 rounds. Although there are only 8 more bullets, but in battle, these 8 bullets may be the dividing line between life and death. Replacing the magazine is indeed a less laborious action. But in any case, this is also an action that takes time to complete. Even in the game, it takes time to change the magazine, let alone in the real world. Boom, boom, spear throwing. 2 bullets flew out with lightning, drawing arcs in the air, and accurately hit 2 hand-joined ninjas who had not even drawn their katana swords. Dodging bullets is a science and a metaphysics. For the ninjas of the Hand Association, they have rich experience in dodging bullets and skilled bullet dodging skills. Those ninjas who are not good at dodging bullets have turned to ashes. In the 21st century with advanced technology, adhering to tradition comes at a price. However, the 2 ninjas who rushed up first never thought that they would encounter bullets that were completely unscientific. The metal bullet hit their foreheads with great precision, like hitting 10 rings in a shooting competition. The bullet entered from the forehead and flew out from the back of the head. Before they fell to the ground, their bodies turned into fly ash and disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Russell had heard before that a hand ninja would turn back to ashes and disappear without leaving a trace after death, but this was the first time he had witnessed the death of a hand ninja. It's a little different from the disappearance that he imagined without leaving a trace. The bodies of the 2 hand ninjas did disappear, but the weapons on their bodies did not disappear together. The only things that disappeared into ashes were the bodies of the handheld ninjas and their clothes. As for the weapons they carried, such as the katana sword, kunai, lock-sickle and other cold weapons did not disappear together. Forehead. What is this? Items dropped by monsters. Looking at the katana sword and kunai and other cold weapons on the ground, Russell showed the expression of the subway master looking at his phone. Even if you drop items from monsters, you at least drop better items. Russell slandered in his heart. Before he could continue to complain, 3 more ninjas rushed into the safe passage and ran towards him along the stairs. Boom, boom, boom. Without any hesitation, Russell used the spear-throwing technique and fired 3 more shots. The same 3 unreasonable bullets drew an unscientific arc in the air and hit the heads of the 3 hand ninjas. For ordinary people, these hand ninjas are scary. But to Russell, they're no different from the scumbags in Hell's Kitchen. On the surface, it looks ferocious, but the solution is to pull the trigger. After eliminating the 5 hand ninjas, he came to the top floor of the building from the safe passage. He had just stepped into the top floor of the building, when the flashing warning lights and the loud siren stopped in the summer. Obviously, the Hand Society actively turned off the alarm in the building. If it is a normal group or company, when it is invaded, it will definitely choose to call the police at the first time. But unfortunately, the Hand Association is not a serious group or company. Although this building nominally belongs to a multinational company from the Neon Country, this multinational company is only a part of the whitewashing industry of the Hand Association. Compared with calling the police to solve the intruder, the Hand Society prefers to do it by themselves. In fact, this is not the first time the Hand has encountered such a thing. Their nemesis, the Holy Society, has done this kind of thing before. In the conference room on the 18th floor of the building, Mrs. Gao, Muramasa, Botu and others sat in the conference room with calm expressions, as if they had not heard the alarm outside. Although they did not bring accompanying guards, this was an important stronghold of the Hand in New York. During the day, most of the people who appear here are serious office workers. But at night, there will be only my own people left here. During the day, it is a serious office building, and at night, it is a serious crime place. The first floor is dual purpose, and the efficiency is perfect. Who of you are interested in dealing with those mice outside? Mrs. Gao, who looked like a kind grandmother, glanced at Muramasa and the others, and said slowly. It's just a few mice, we don't need to do it ourselves, right? The blogger wearing an expensive handmade custom suit said disdainfully. Rats don't have the guts to come and make trouble here. Alexandra, who was also wearing a suit but in a white women's suit, said to the blogger. Okay, don't waste time on these mice, let's get down to business, what are you going to do about Haikong? The village was looking at Madame Gao and the others with a cold expression like an iceberg. Unlike Mrs. Gao and others, he was dressed in a very simple, classic white neon kimono. On the table in front of him, there is also a samurai sword that doesn't look cheap at first glance. Haikong is our most important property, no matter where she escapes, she is ours. If you are not sure, then leave this matter to me. Sawanda, who had never spoken, said. As the only black man among the 5 fingers of the hand, Sawanda always felt that Mrs. Gao and the others were hesitant to do things. Isn't it just that Haikong escaped? It's a big deal, just grab it back. Do you need to hold a secret meeting in the middle of the night? It's okay to not sleep at home in the middle of the night. He came to the company to hold a secret meeting, and encountered an intruder. Sawanda is not in a bad mood now. Since that's the case, then the matter of Haikong will be handed over to you. After finding Haikong, let's deal with the keel problem. Mrs. Gao ignored the displeasure on Sawanda's face and said slowly. If it is said that Haikong's defection, it is only that the hand will lose a very powerful weapon. Then the keel is related to the future lifespan of each of them. When they defected from Kunlun, they did take part of the keel with them. But after hundreds of years of use, there is only a small part of the keel left in their hands. If they can't find a new keel, then they who have lived for hundreds of years can only be like ordinary people, grow old slowly and eventually die. This is an intolerable thing for them who are used to longevity. If it wasn't for longevity, they wouldn't have escaped from Kunlun in the first place, let alone until now, they are still on guard against Kunlun's pursuit. Others may not know the power of Kunlun, but they who have lived and studied in Kunlun know very well how terrifying the power of Kunlun, which seems to be indifferent to the world. I have no opinion. Bo Tu was the first to agree. Afterwards, Alexandra and Muramasa also agreed. After the business was over, just as they were about to leave the building and return to their respective residences, a hand ninja wearing a red ninja suit walked into the conference room. The hand ninja first bowed to Mrs. Gao and others, and then walked quickly to Mrs. Gao, telling the situation outside with a respectful face. After listening to the ninja's report, Mrs. Gao's face became a little ugly. Everyone, the mice outside are trickier than you think. Let's be active tonight. While they were discussing how to deal with Haikong, Russell and Bullseye had already dealt with quite a few hand ninjas, and were walking towards them. Russell chose to start from the top and work his way down from the top. On the other hand, Bullseye and Mr. Negative Film were just the opposite. They chose to start from the first floor and continue to advance to the upper floors. Although there were not many people, there were only 3 of them. But they proved with practical actions that what is called high-level combat power overwhelms low-level combat power. Although there are many hand ninjas in the building, they are not troublesome at all. Russell doesn't even need to use the power of the Venom symbiote. He only needs to cast a spear and use his extraordinary physique a little to easily get rid of these crazy ninjas who only use cold weapons to cut people. At this time, he was holding the modified Glock 34 in one hand and the samurai sword he picked up in the other hand, hitting down layer by layer. Although his attitude was a bit arrogant, the handicraft ninja who came to stop him had nothing to do with him. The difference in strength is too great. It's extremely difficult for these hand ninjas to stop him, even approaching him. His unreasonable spear-swinging technique is hard to avoid. Even if they dodge, they will be slashed to death by him when they come to the front. From the top floor to the 22nd floor, Russell walked easily without encountering any trouble. However, when he came to the 22nd floor, he finally stopped. Not tired, but he saw his goal tonight. 2 of the goals. Muramasa in a white kimono and Alexandra in a white suit appeared in his sight. Around the two of them, there were more than 20 hand ninjas wearing different colored ninja suits. Although Hakuto is not here, he cannot be allowed to complete the task at one time, but he is quite satisfied to meet Muramasa and Alexandra at the same time. He has a very clear understanding of his luck and knows that he is not a European emperor. He even made plans to solve the 5 fingers of the hand by himself. Muramasa and Alexandra didn't talk nonsense with him. After seeing him come to the 22nd floor, they did not hesitate, and directly gave the order to swarm the ninja beside them. Do you look down on me so much? Although it is a common practice to send men to test the strength of the enemy first. But the problem is that he can come here unscathed, which is enough to explain the problem. Under such circumstances, Muramasa and Alexandra still chose to let the ninjas of the Hand Association take the lead, and looked down on him somewhat. Looking at the swarms of hand-joined ninjas, Russell sighed helplessly. When these hand-joined ninjas rushed towards him, he threw away the samurai sword in his left hand, and the Glock 34 in his right hand was also thrown back into the system space by him. The next second, the big and thick Gatling gun appeared in his hand. Gatling, who is in blue fire, appears again. Without any hesitation, he decisively pulled the trigger. Da 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 da. The continuous sound of gunfire and the unique blue gunfire appeared at the same time. Tempest-like bullets flew towards the hand-joined ninja at high speed. Times have changed. Adhering to the tradition is a good thing, but it is also necessary to keep pace with the times. The immutable tradition will be eliminated by the times. Russell is not Daredevil, and has no silly plans to play hand-to-hand combat with the hand ninja. He never minds the use of thermal weapons to deal with miscellaneous soldiers who can be dealt with thermal weapons. Muramasa and Alexandra never thought that Russell would pull out a blue-fired Gatling out of thin air. When they came up here to stop Russell, the information they received was that Russell only had a pistol in his hand. They did see the pistol, but they also saw a Gatling that appeared out of nowhere, and it was also a Gatling with blue fire. At the moment when the gunshots sounded, Muramasa and Alexandra did not hesitate, and resolutely came to the passage next door, lest they die inexplicably in Gatling's strafe. They hid in the passage next door, avoiding Gatling's strafing. But the hand-glued ninjas they sent out were not so lucky. In just a few seconds, these hand-joined ninjas who rushed forward were beaten into sieves by Gatling, and they disappeared into ashes, leaving behind cold weapons all over the place. When the rushing ninjas were all turned into ashes, Russell threw Gatling, who had just stopped spinning, back into the system space, and said loudly to Muramasa and the two who were hiding in the passage next door, "Come out, I know. You haven't left yet." Russell ignored the cold weapon that fell on the ground and walked straight towards Muramasa and Alexandra. Seemingly seeing that Gatling was no longer in his hands, Muramasa and Alexandra finally walked out of the next passage. "Traveler, we should have never offended you. Are you going to be our enemy completely?" Muramasa said in a cold tone, holding the expensive samurai sword in his right hand. "Okay, since you know I'm a traveler, why do you need to ask such nonsense? Someone paid for your life, so willing to pay for it." Russell looked at Muramasa and Alexandra and said slowly. On the surface, neither Muramasa nor Alexandra seemed to be very powerful people. But if you really think so, you are very wrong. To be able to escape from Kunlun and have not been caught and killed by Kunlun until now, it can explain the problem very well. Russell doesn't know whether Muramasa and the others have obtained the graduation certificate issued by Kunlun. But one thing he can confirm is that if Muramasa and the others were really easy to deal with, Daredevil and his party would have taken care of them long ago, and Jin wouldn't specifically ask him to do it. Aside from the fact that they have a group of crazy ninjas who are not afraid of death, the more important reason for the hands to make their name in the underground world is because of the strength of the 5 fingers of the hands themselves. Without them to solve those tough enemies, the Hand Society is a killer group that can bully ordinary people. You guys are going to look at me like this. Kunlun probably didn't teach you to kill with your eyes, right? When they came to the place about 5 or 6 meters away from the two of them, Russell stopped and said to the two of them. After hearing him say Kunlun, Muramasa and Alexandra's expressions suddenly changed. How can it be? How did he know? Muramasa and Alexandra exchanged a quick glance. You can't let him leave here alive, absolutely not. Under Russell's gaze, Muramasa slowly pulled out the katana sword that shone with cold light. At the moment when the katana sword was unsheathed, he did not hesitate to shoot at Russell. Although Muramasa and Alexandra do not have extraordinary physiques, their physiques are also far beyond ordinary people. Gas. The Tekken Club's anger, they are the same. However, unlike Iron Fist, their chi did not come from Kunlun's Shenlong Shoulao, but from Lei Gong's training. In the blink of an eye, Muramasa came to Russell, and the samurai sword in his hand slashed towards Russell. Muramasa's speed was so fast that normal people couldn't react at all. But unfortunately, Russell is not a normal person. Just when the extremely sharp samurai sword was about to slash himself, Russell finally shot. I saw that his waist and horse were united. He took half a step forward, and his right hand flashed a lightning bolt, hitting Muramasa's chest. Xingyi, half-step collapse fist. Bang! A dull thud resounded like a drum of war. Russell came first, and his right fist hit Muramasa's chest first, knocking him out. Muramasa is not silent, but Russell doesn't like Muramasa, a neon guy who has a good life. Not to mention, the village is still a traitor to Kunlun. He learned something from Kunlun, but now he appears in front of him wearing a kimono and holding a samurai sword. If he didn't show Muramasa any color, Russell felt a little guilty. Muramasa's melee fighting skills are not weak. In any case, he is a person who has received the orthodox Kunlun education. However, he still didn't expect that he who took the first shot would be kicked out by Russell who shot later. Not to mention being hit, what made him even more uncomfortable was the amazing strength of Russell's fist. If he hadn't practiced chi and had been nourished by the keel, Russell would have taken him away with one punch. Muramasa, who flew upside down, spit out a mouthful of blood before he landed, and his face turned pale. After seeing Muramasa being thrown by a punch, Alexandra made a decisive move and caught Muramasa flying backwards, saving him from falling to the ground in embarrassment. "Ha, you couldn't kill him with one punch." Looking at Muramasa, whose face was pale and his chest heaved violently, Russell frowned slightly. Although he is not a so-called ancient martial artist, he has also learned some traditional martial arts of the Flower family. In New York, there are quite a few martial arts centers that teach the Changhua family martial arts. Wing Chun, Xingyi, Hongquan, Baji, Taiji, etc. are all taught in martial arts centers. The half-step collapse punch he just performed was learned from the martial arts hall. The weakest Iron Fist in history was killed by him with Gatling. This time, he intends to experience Kunlun's martial arts from Mujung and others. Although he only punched one punch just now, Muramasa and Alexandra fought hard. A layman watches the fun, an expert watches the doorway. Russell really hasn't made any shots yet, but the half-step collapse just now is very telling. Whether it is the speed of the shot or the timing of the shot, it all proves that he has very good fighting skills. Not to mention, he still risked being slashed by a samurai sword just now. Although Muramasa and Alexandra had never dealt with Russell before, they had heard a lot about Russell's deeds. Otherwise, they wouldn't have recognized Russell as the famous traveler at a glance. "Don't waste your time, let's go together." Russell didn't take the opportunity to attack Muramasa and Alexandra. He hooked his fingers at the two of them and said with disdain. Looking at his arrogant behavior now, the already ugly faces of Muramasa and Alexandra became even more ugly. It's not like they haven't seen arrogant people. But those guys who dare to be arrogant in front of them basically have no good end. If the person opposite is not Russell, but someone else, they will definitely let the other party see what cruelty is. But now, they have no such idea at all. Judging from the current situation, it is not Russell who will go to the tragic end, but them. Although the situation is not very good, Muramasa and Alexandra still have no plans to capture them. What are you kidding? In their dictionary, there is no word for surrender. Muramasa and Alexandra exchanged glances quickly. Afterwards, the two attacked Russell at the same time, one after the other. Looking at Muramasa and Alexandra who had become serious, Russell showed a gratified smile. It's long overdue. A few minutes later, Muramasa and Alexandra fell to the ground in pain, looking at Russell standing in front of them with murderous eyes. They did work hard, but the gap between them and Russell was too big. Neither chi nor other martial arts they learned from Kunlun could cause fatal damage to Russell. After playing with them for a few minutes and experiencing Kunlun's martial arts, Russell stopped holding back and attacked with all his strength. Then, Muramasa and Alexandra lay on the ground with their limbs broken by him. Glancing at Muramasa and Alexandra, who were clearly in pain but still clenched their teeth and said nothing, Russell nodded in satisfaction. Although the strength of the two of them is not great, their backbones are still good. At least he didn't make any moves to beg for mercy. With a thought, two black tentacles emerged from his back, like a python binding Muramasa and Alexandra, who had lost their ability to move. Then, dragged the two of them downstairs. As before, he did not choose to take the elevator, but dragged Muramasa and Alexandra into the safe passage. While he was dealing with Muramasa and Alexandra, Bullseye and Mr. Negative also welcomed their opponents. 2 on 3. The two of them met Mrs. Gao, Bo-Tu, and Sawanda. At this time, Mr. Negative has entered the black and white form like a photo-negative, and the negative energy that can catalyze the target's negative emotions is frantically swaying without money. In addition to turning the negative energy into energy waves to bombard the three of Mrs. Gao, he also used the negative energy to condense a long energy sword, and from time to time, he would engage in melee combat with the three of Mrs. Gao. Mr. Negative stood at the front like a tank, while Bullseye with extraordinary throwing ability hid in the distance, throwing various objects around him as weapons at Mrs. Gao and the three. Bullseye's attack looks a bit like a random throw. But everything he threw out showed astonishing precision. If it wasn't for the three Madame Gao's good skills, the Bullseye's throwing attack alone would make them devastated. If it's just 2 to 3, it's not a problem that Bullseye and Mr. Negative have the upper hand. But the problem is that besides Madame Gao, they still have a lot of people to deal with. Those ninjas with cold weapons attacked them frantically as if they didn't know what death was at all. Although these hand ninjas were not their opponents, they still caused a lot of trouble for the two of them. The battle between them and Mrs. Gao became stalemate because of the intervention of these hands and ninjas. 14th floor of the building. Russell dragged Muramasa and Alexandra out of the safe passage. The bumps along the way made the two of them completely lose their intention to speak. As soon as he pushed open the fire door, Russell saw the chaos in front of him. Bullseye and Mr. Negative are in the middle of the floor. Around them, there were a large number of hand-joined ninjas who were not afraid of death. In the black, there was some white negative energy flying everywhere, knocking down one hand ninja after another. In addition to these hand ninjas, the three of Mrs. Gao also attacked Bullseye and Mr. Negatively. Don't look at Mrs. Gao's appearance as a weak old man, she looks like she will fall to the ground at any time and corrupt you. But when it comes to her hands, her skills are no worse than those of the ninjas. Except for Mrs. Gao, Bo-Tu and Sawanda were not idle, attacking Bullseye and Mr. Negatively. Looking at Bullseye and Mr. Negative who were under siege, Russell did not join the battle immediately, but found a good position and admired the chaos in front of him. White suit, white tie, white hair, white eyebrows, white eyes. Except for the skin turning black, most of Mr. Negative's body turned white. Although his image looks very abnormal, I have to say that he is quite handsome in this way. In Russell's opinion, Mr. Negative in this form is much more handsome than the normal human form. The black and white Mr. Negative now holds a samurai sword that was snatched from the hand of a ninja. He holds the sword in his right hand, and releases negative energy mixed with black and white in his left hand. Although the hand ninjas on the field had an absolute numerical advantage, they did not gain much advantage in front of Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative's fighting skills are not particularly powerful, but he has a powerful negative energy. Under his indiscriminate bombardment, the hand ninjas who besieged him turned into ashes and disappeared. I don't know if he hit the top, or if Mr. Negative didn't take Bullseye as a companion at all. Bullseye, who is using his extraordinary throwing ability, is also within the attack range of Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative, Bullseye, Mrs. Gao, the hand ninja. This office floor, which was originally full of desks, now looks like a battlefield in Syria, a mess. Because the scene was too chaotic, neither Mr. Negative, Bullseye, nor Mrs. Gao and others found Russell, who was watching the battle silently. Although Russell did not join the fight, he did not sit idle. When Mr. Negative started to kill and frantically released negative energy, a small black tentacle sprang out from his right hand, and brought a piece of broken furniture in the distance. This is a fragment of a certain desk, the material is ordinary, and there is nothing special about it. What really caught Russell's attention was not the material of the fragments, but the negative energy on the fragments that had not dissipated. Looking at the black and white negative energy burning like flames on the fragments, he stretched out his left hand and let the symbiote cover the entire left hand, turning it into the shape of a demon's claws. Then, he touched the negative energy that hadn't dissipated with his left hand like a demon's claws. Although the black and white negative energy is burning like a flame, it does not feel warm at all. Instead, it has a cold feeling, as if holding an ice cube with bare hands. The negative energy that was burning on the furniture pieces was transferred to his left hand. Is this the negative energy that allows venom to evolve into anti-venom serum? Russell looked at the negative energy of his left hand with great interest. Although he knew that Mr. Negative's negative energy could make venom evolve into serum, but he didn't have a very clear idea on how to do it. Although there are related content in the comics belong to the comics, and the reality belongs to the reality. He does not intend to let Mr. Negative inject negative energy into his body. Compared with letting Mr. Negative inject negative energy into his body, he has a better method. Let the symbiote possess Mr. Negative, copy his superpower, and let himself directly possess negative energy. Although he doesn't know if this method can make venom evolve into serum, there is no harm in trying it. Even if venom can't evolve into serum because of this, it's not a bad thing to have one more extraordinary ability. Feeling the negative energy on his left hand, he waved his hand to dissipate the negative energy wrapped around his left hand. Then, he turned to look at Muramasa and Alexandra, who were bound by black tentacles. Venom puppet. Under the vigilant gazes of Muramasa and Alexandra, he directly started the transformation of the venom puppet. Muramasa and Alexandra didn't even have a chance to resist, so they were possessed by the symbiote and turned into venom puppets that he could control. The symbiote's possession repaired their broken limbs. Under Russell's control, the two of them got up quickly. The next second, they attacked Madame Gao and the Hand Ninja. When he intervened in the battle, the originally stalemate battle quickly became one-sided. After 5 or 6 minutes, all the handheld ninjas in sight turned into ashes and disappeared, leaving a cold weapon on the ground. Mrs. Gao, Bo Tu, and Sounda were knocked to the ground and lost their ability to resist. The blogger is mine, and you share the rest. As soon as he finished speaking, a black tentacle sprouted from Russell's body, turning the seriously injured Bo Tu into a venom puppet. After completing the transformation, without any hesitation, he left the building with Muramasa, Hakuto, and Alexandra. Looking at the back of him leaving, and the 3 villagers who looked like puppets beside him, Bullseye and Mr. Negative didn't speak. One by one, Mrs. Gao and Sounda were equally divided. Jin Yen entrusted them with getting Mrs. Gao and others, and bringing back the keel in their hands. Man, they are now defeated. But the keel, they haven't got it yet. As for how to get the keel in the hands of Madame Gao and others, it depends on their own abilities. After half an hour, the Queen, Russell took the 3 of Muramasa to one of his safe houses. Jin Bing's commission, he will complete it. After all, this is a commission with a bounty of up to $100 million. He is not short of money now, and he is even rich. But no one thinks too much about money. After bringing the 3 of Muramasa to the safe house, Russell took the possession of the symbiotes from the 3 of Botu and returned the control of the body to them. Possession was released, but he did not give them back the right to move freely. Right now, they are still bound by black tentacles. Glancing at the 3 of them, Russell decided to start with the blogger. Time is limited, I hope you can cooperate as much as possible. You have also experienced the rapid recovery of your injuries just now, so you should know that if I don't agree, you can't die even if you want to. Russell said to the 3 disciples sitting in front of him, then came to the corner of the room and took out a black suitcase. Putting the suitcase on the table in front of the 3 Botuo, he opened the normal-looking suitcase. When the suitcase was opened to reveal the contents inside, the 3 Botuo couldn't help widening their eyes. The things in the suitcase are nothing but small instruments needed for surgical operations. Scalpels of different sizes, skin knives, lancets, spatula, pick knives, and blade knives are neatly arranged. In addition to these scalpels, there are various types of surgical scissors, dissection scissors, hemostatic forceps, tissue forceps, bullet forceps and other surgical scissors and surgical forceps. Of course, there are many kinds of forceps and needle hooks that are needed for surgery. For example, small blood vessel forceps, non-invasive forceps, aneurysm needles, probes, vein retractors, wound hooks and other small instruments. You don't have to worry too much, these are all gadgets. Chainsaws, axes, hammers, etc. are all in the next room. I hope we don't need to use them tonight. Russell looked at the three Bo disciples kindly and said with a smile. Now, I ask, you answer, the first question, where is Kunlun? Russell got the answer he wanted very smoothly. When he used completely unqualified surgical operation skills, he carried out several academic studies full of scientific nature on the three Bo Tuo with full of curiosity, and the Bo Tuo 3 told him everything he wanted to know. He originally planned to conduct the so-called prisoner's dilemma with the three bloggers in order to get the answer he wanted. But when he got to the safe house, he changed his mind. Anyway, the venom symbiote is there, no matter what he does to the three Bo 2, they won't die. In this case, there is no need to use the prisoner's dilemma. Although the three of Bo 2 are old monsters who have lived for hundreds of years, with a lifespan and physique far exceeding normal, but when it is time for pain, they will still suffer. And compared to the physical pain, what they can't bear is the psychological damage. Russell with a scalpel, in their eyes, is almost like a perverted murderer. Not a perverted murderer, it's perverted. If you meet a perverted murderer, you will at most die once. Be tougher, grit your teeth and close your eyes, and it's over. But Russell is different. Relying on the venom symbiote, he made the three Bo Tuo jump between life and death repeatedly, prolonging their painful experience. Death is not the scariest thing. Wanting to die but not being able to die is. Not to mention, in the process of wanting to die but not being able to die, they have to experience all kinds of inhumane extreme pain. After getting the answer he wanted from the three disciples, Russell first went to the bathroom, washed the blood on his hands and face, and changed out of the blood-stained clothes. Afterwards, he left the safe house with the three Bo 2, who were not injured, but had a complete mental breakdown. Go to the residence of the three Bo Tuo and find their hidden keel. After confirming that the number of keels was exactly the same as what they said, he ended the lives of the three Bo Tuo and called the cleaners to dispose of their bodies. Fisker Building. Top floor office. This is the keel you want, and I have already taken the other half. Russell put the black suitcase in front of Kim and said slowly. Jinbian took the suitcase, opened it and took a look. There are not too many keels in the suitcase, only about half the box. Although the number was smaller than he thought, Jin didn't say anything, closed the suitcase and picked up the phone on the table. After more than 10 seconds, Kim hung up the phone and said to Russell, "The payment has been credited to your account at the hotel." Okay. Russell took out his mobile phone and logged into the account, and glanced at the balance in it. More than $150 million US. $100 million as the reward for this operation, $50 million as gold and thank you for killing Daredevil. The fractional ones are the activity fund that he exists in the hotel. After confirming that Jin Ning had transferred the remuneration, Russell did not leave Jin Ning's office immediately, but came to the wine cabinet. Do you mind if I have a few drinks? Russell turned to Jin and said. Do not mind. Watching Russell take out a bottle of whiskey and a wine glass from the wine cabinet, a trace of doubt appeared on Jin Bing's face. According to common sense, the commission has been completed, and the transaction between him and Russell has ended. But now Russell doesn't seem to have any plans to leave. Russell ignored the doubts on Jin Bing's face, sat down on the sofa, and poured himself a glass. Jin Bing's entrustment is indeed completed, but he still has some things of his own to deal with. Time passed little by little. Kim sat behind his desk, waiting for Bullseye and Mr. Negative to arrive. Russell sat on the sofa in the office, pouring himself a drink. He's waiting for someone, Mr. Negative. If King hadn't let Mr. Negative Martin Lee join the operation, he would not have gone to trouble with Mr. Negative for a while. Although he has the idea of evolving venom into serum, he is not in a hurry. However, since he met Mr. Negative tonight, he doesn't mind handling this matter in advance. While waiting for Mr. Negative to arrive, he combed through all the information he had obtained from the three Bo Tuo people tonight. First, he roughly figured out where the Kunlun in this world is. According to the three Bo Tuo, the entrance to Kunlun is near Kunlun Mountain, but Kunlun is not on Earth, but in a pocket dimension on Kunlun. This point is roughly in line with the Kunlun information in his memory. Although the three Bo Tuo lived and studied in Kunlun, they did not know the origin of Kunlun. But it doesn't matter, Russell knows the origin of Kunlun himself. Just like the Asgardians are aliens, the Kunlun people of Kunlun are also aliens. A long time ago, a group of humanoid aliens, the Kunlun people, landed on the Earth in a spaceship. During the landing, the spaceship ripped apart space, creating a pocket dimension. The Kunlun people regard this pocket dimension as their place of seclusion, and build 7 heavenly capitals in it, and make each heavenly capital enshrined a mythical beast as a guardian and energy source. Kunlun is one of the 7 heavenly capitals, and it is also the head of the 7 heavenly capitals. The guardian of Kunlun is the giant dragon Shulao. If you defeat Shulao, you can obtain the power of Shulao's dragon and become Kunlun's immortal weapon, Iron Fist. Danny Rand, who he used to make a sieve with Gatling, is the 66th Iron Fist. Speaking of Kunlun, the current leader of Kunlun is called Jade Emperor. The Jade Emperor is not only the leader of Kunlun, but also the chief elder of the 7 heavenly capital councils. Because the guardian of Kunlun is Shulao, Kunlun is also called the City of Dragons. In addition to Kunlun, the City of Dragons, there are also 6 heavenly capitals including Penglai Island, the City of Turtles, Kunz, the City of Cranes, Hudao, the City of Tigers, Spider Kingdom, the City of Spiders, Ziyang, the City of Monkeys, and Shiyu, the City of Dogs. Note 1. Every Paradise City has its own immortal weapon, that is, a warrior recognized by the guardian beast. For example, Kunlun's immortal weapon is the Iron Fist. The other 6 immortal weapons are the Cobra of Penglai Island, the Crane Champion of Kunz, the Tiger Beauty of Tiger Island, the 9 Spider Lady of the Spider Kingdom, the Orphan Prince of Ziyang, and the Dog Brother of the Lower Domain. In addition to the 7 heavenly capitals, there is the legendary 8th city, 8 Hot Hells. The 8 Hot Hell is the 8th city created by the Kunlun and the Immortals in the dimension. It is a city specially used to exile evil. Only the chi of the 7 immortal weapons can open the passage to the 8 Hot Hell. Although Bo Tu and others have lived in Kunlun for many years, they have never been to the other 6 heavenly capitals, let alone the other 6 immortal weapons. As for Iron Fist Danny Rand, they have seen it, but they are too lazy to pay attention to the weakest Iron Fist in history. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.